Hello there and welcome to this Ansible course. This is Rahul. And before we jump into our Ansible course, let's take a pause over here and take a look onto the topics which we are going to cover into this particular series. So here I have listed all the topic and I will also leave the timestamp of each chapter into the description section. So if you're just getting started with the Ansible, then I would highly recommend to go through all this chapter. And for those who are already familiar with these kind of a concept, then just check the timestamp and look for the specific chapter which you want to practice or which you want to learn. And the last chapter of this Ansible series, I'm just going to cover one project where I have written my own Ansible playbook to deploy my own blog. So this playbook will help you to understand how you can use your concept to create your own Ansible automation. So don't miss that chapter if you want to really learn like how the Ansible work in real time. So without further ado, let's start with our chapter 1. Now back to the important question, like what the Ansible is. So Ansible is an open source tool which help you majorly with the 3 tasks. So the first task is the software installation. So with the help of Ansible, you can automate the task of installing software onto various servers. Second, it can help you to manage the server configuration. And what does it mean? So with the help of management of a server configuration, you can add a new configuration, you can update any existing configuration, and even you can delete the configuration of a server. The third thing, and which is the most important thing, is you can deploy your web application or any kind of an application on a server, and you can even automate that task using the Ansible. Alright, so I don't want to stuff you with a lot of theory about Ansible, and why don't we switch to our desktop and see a very small playbook where we will try to see like how we can automate the installation of a software packages using the Ansible. And also we will see if we don't have an Ansible, then how we are going to install a software package on a server, so that you can get the understanding like if you have an Ansible, then how you will automate the task, and if you don't have the Ansible, then how you are going to handle those tasks. So let's switch over to my desktop and see that small Ansible playbook. Alright, let's try to understand the scenario where you don't have an Ansible with you. So how you're going to install the software packages. So here onto the screen, if you will see on the left hand side, I have some script which is like installing Python and creating a directory and also installing an Apache 2 server. And on the right hand side, if you'll see, this is my remote server with an external IP which I have highlighted in the red color font. So that's the remote server where I'm just going to execute this command. And since I don't have an Ansible with me, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to use the simple SSH method to log in into the server and execute these commands so that I can install Python, I can install Apache 2, and also I can create the directory. So this is the way I'm just going to do if I don't have the Ansible. The next thing which I'm just going to show a glimpse of an Ansible playbook where we are just going to automate all these tasks into a single playbook, which is we call it as an Ansible playbook. Alright, moving to the Ansible part. So this is the smallest Ansible playbook which I have for this particular very short demo. So I'll start from the top over here. So here you can see this is the first task which I have written over here for installing the Python. So here, one disclaimer I would like to give you here. This is an introductory part. Here I'm just trying to explain the difference between if you don't use Ansible and when you use Ansible. So don't try to remember everything over here, because we will take a deep dive look into each file, inventory, task, and the playbooks into the later session. And also we will take a look on how to install the Ansible also. So we will start from that particular stage where we don't have the Ansible installed onto our system. Here I'm just trying to explain the difference between when you don't have an Ansible and when you have an Ansible. So what are the changes you will see? Okay, so now coming back over here, so this is the first task which I have written into my Ansible playbook, which will install the Python onto my remote server. Second, this is the task for creating the directory. This is the third task for installing the Apache 2 server. So here you will see the differences. So if you go back to our presentation deck where I have shown you, so here you will see the one-liner commands. So these one-liner commands are not self-explanatory unless and until you know or you have used those commands in the past. So here you will see, although it is really short and although you can combine all these commands into a single shell script file, but it doesn't look so intuitive. If any other developer is working on to this bash script, then he will find a little bit of difficulty understanding those commands, because those are not so much, they don't have the description behind them. But if you take a look over here into the Ansible playbook, so here this is the first task. Here you have the name. This name is really self-explanatory, like what it is trying to do. Here is the second task where I'm also writing my own custom name, like create directory. I can explain furthermore like what kind of a directory I want to create. And here is the third task where I'm just saying explicitly, hey, I'm trying to install the Python. So this is the main difference between the when you don't use Ansible and when you use Ansible. Alright, so let's SSH into the server which is running remotely, and this is my terminal over here, if you can see. And the command which I'm just going to run is this one. So this is my SSH command, and this is the private key I'm using to SSH. In case if you are having a remote machine and you have a username and password, then you can use the putty also. Since I'm using the Mac machine, that's why I'm using the SSH command. But in case if you are using the Windows machine, then you can use the putty utility where you can just specify the external IP, your username and password. And in case if you are having a private key, then you can just simply add your private key over here, followed by the username and the external IP. So this is the way you can do the SSH into your remote machine. But anyways, so this is the way I'm just gonna do the SSH into my remote machine. And this IP is a little bit different from my initial PPT which I have shown to you, because I have started a new virtual machine. That's why I have got the new IP. So I'm just gonna execute this command. And here you can see I'm able to SSH into my remote server. All right. Now the next thing which we are gonna do, we are just gonna run those commands manually without using Ansible, so that we can analyze like what's the difference we observe between the without using Ansible and with using Ansible. So this is the bash script which I have written over here. So I'm just gonna manually run one by one command onto my terminal. So the first thing which I'm just gonna do, I'm just gonna do the apt-get update, which is for updating the package manager of my Linux machine. Since I'm using Debian based Ubuntu, that's why I'm using the apt package manager. So I'm just gonna paste the command over here, and this is the way we are just gonna update the package manager. I'm just gonna speed up some of the commands. So first command has been executed. The next command which I'm just gonna run is the install Python. So I'm just gonna open the terminal once again. I'm just gonna paste it over here. So here I just wanted to show you like if you don't use the Ansible, then this is how you are just gonna set up your server, where you're just trying to install one package one after another. So here you can see the Python version is already by default installed, so it is not going to install the Python. Moving further, so here I'm just gonna create the directory. So this is the command. I'm just gonna paste it over here, and here I'm just gonna run the ls command, and here you can see this is the basic HTTP directory which has been created. All right, the next thing which I'm just gonna do, I'm just gonna copy the installation command for Apache server. I'm just gonna head over to my terminal over here. I'm just gonna paste the command. All right, so here you can see we have installed the Apache server. Now what we need to do is we need to enable the Apache. So this is the command which I'm just gonna use. So again, I'm just gonna go to terminal. I'm just gonna paste the command and hit enter. And here you can see we have started our Apache 2 server. The next thing which we're gonna do, we're just gonna verify the status of Apache. So I'm just gonna run systemctl. And here you can see the status of Apache 2 server service is green. That means we have successfully installed the Apache 2 server onto our Linux machine. Okay, so now you have seen the manual way when we don't have the Ansible with me. Then this is the way I'm just gonna install the software packages onto my remote server. Now I'm just gonna switch over to the Ansible way, where I'm just gonna run only single playbook, and that will install all these packages using the Ansible. Alright, so now we have seen the manual way of installing the software packages using the bash script, but now let's take a look onto the playbook once again. So this is the playbook which I have explained to you earlier, and the name of the playbook which I will be using for running this playbook is vmsetup_playbook.yml. This font might be small, but when I'll switch over to terminal, then I can show you the exact name. Okay, so I'm just gonna switch to my terminal, and this is the command which I'm just gonna run. So that starts with the keyword Ansible playbook. After that, you need to specify the remote host, which we call it as an inventory in Ansible. We will take a look in the later session for the inventory and the host. But just to keep you, just to give you a little bit brief. So this is the name of the host file actually. That means the remote machine. And this is the name of the playbook which I was referring to. I can show you the host file where I have made an entry for our remote machine. So if you go over here, so this is the host and this is the IP address of my remote machine or the remote server. So this is how the basic Ansible play look like. So this is the command which I'm just gonna execute, and you just simply need to hit enter. And if this is the first time you are connecting to your remote server, then it is going to ask, are you sure you want to connect? You simply need to type yes and hit enter. And then it will take maybe a couple of minutes or 3 minutes to complete the playbook. But meanwhile, I can show you some of the output which it generates to tell you that what task it has finished. So here you can see it is installing the Python. And here you can see the status change. That means it has installed the Python. The next task which it is doing, it is creating a directory. And the third task which it is doing is to install the Apache. And as soon as all the 3 tasks has been finished, and you will see a message over here that like 3 changed, OK 4. And you will not see any error message. That means your Ansible playbook has successfully finished. And now we can SSH into server and verify that it has installed the required packages which we have mentioned inside our Ansible playbook. Okay, so I have opened another terminal, and here I have mentioned the SSH command and the remote IP of my remote server. I'm just gonna simply hit enter. And here I'm into my remote machine, and here we can verify one by one. So first of all, I'm just going to run the ls command to verify the directory, and here you can see this directory has been created. The first thing which I forgot to check is the Python command. So I'm just going to run the command python 3 version, and here you can see Python has been installed. The third thing which I need to verify is the Apache 2 server. So I'm just going to run the systemctl status and Apache 2, and here you can see it has installed the Apache 2 also. So that means our Ansible playbook has finished the task and it has successfully installed all the 3 things which we have asked. Alright, so now we have taken a look onto the very small demo of Ansible, and I really felt that demo is really essential for you to understand the Ansible better. Now in the next session, we will take a look like why Ansible is called agentless, and also we are going to take a look like how to install Ansible onto your local machine so that you can run the Ansible playbook and you can just make a software installation, change config, and deploy your web application. So those are the topics which we are going to cover into the next session. Welcome to the second part of the Ansible series, and in this session we are going to take a look like why Ansible is called agentless, and later we are going to take a look how to install Ansible onto your local development machine so that you can develop your own Ansible playbook. Coming back to the question like why Ansible is called agentless. To answer that question, here I have prepared a diagram, and onto the left hand side you will see a developer with his or her laptop or a working laptop where he has or she has installed Ansible. And on the right hand side, you will see the remote servers. It can be on-premise remote server. It can be hosted on a Google Cloud platform or a AWS or any other cloud provider, but that server has to be remote. Okay. So now there is Ansible, and that Ansible we have installed onto the developer machines, not onto the servers. So pay attention carefully. We have installed Ansible on a developer machine. So if I am working on my playbook, then I have installed Ansible on my local development machine. So I will prepare my Ansible playbook. I will write some instructions inside my Ansible playbook, and I will run the Ansible playbook command. And as soon as I run the Ansible playbook command, it will connect to those servers using SSH. It is same as when you try to log into your remote server using SSH. So it will use the SSH. it will connect to those server and it will execute all the required command which is necessary or which we have specified into our playbooks. So this is why the Ansible is called agentless. Alright, so now we know that Ansible is agentless. Now the next question comes, like, how can I write the Ansible playbook and what's the extension in which I should save the Ansible playbook? So as you can see onto the diagram onto the left hand side, so you need to save your Ansible playbook with the extension .yml. So YAML extension is used for Ansible playbook, and you have to follow the YAML conventions to write your Ansible instructions inside your Ansible playbook. And here you can see I have taken a very basic code snippet screenshot where I have created like a Ansible instruction for installing the Apache server. So this file I'm just going to save with a YAML extension, and then I'm just going to execute the Ansible playbook command to run it on a different server. So this is the diagram which I just wanted to show you, like how you're going to create and save your Ansible playbook with the .yml extension. Now the next thing which you need to do, you need to install the Ansible based on the operating system which you are using. So first I will start with the Windows, and as you know, from the Windows 10 and Windows 11 we have the capability to run the Linux operating system inside your Windows machine. So for that we will be using WSL utility provided by Windows to install the Ubuntu or a CentOS based operating system inside your Windows machine, because it is really easy to run the Ansible inside your Linux machine. So for that purpose we are going to use the WSL utility for Windows. Here onto the screen you can see there is a really good documentation from a Canonical Ubuntu community, and this is the official page of the Canonical Ubuntu where they have shown like how to set up your WSL on a Windows 10 as well as Windows 11 machines. So here, first of all, you need to install the WSL utility. So this particular section, or these two links actually, this is for Windows 10 and this link is for Windows 10 as well as the Windows 11. So I'll put both of the link into the description section of the video. So if you are using the Windows, then I would highly recommend to follow these instruction which is mentioned on Ubuntu Canonical. Okay, so let's go through it. So this is the overview, like what you need to do. Second, if you click on the WSL, then they have taken a really good screenshots like how to proceed forward. So here you first need to go to the Microsoft Store where you need to look for a Windows subsystem. And after that you need to install that thing, and once you install the Windows subsystem, then you will get this terminal, and there you need to install the Ubuntu. So here after that you need to download the Ubuntu, and here you need to mention like what version you need to install for the Ubuntu. I would recommend choose the long-term LTS based Ubuntu version system, because Canonical has a really good support for LTS version. So I would recommend to choose the latest and LTS version of Ubuntu. So here you can download the Ubuntu, and once you have downloaded the Ubuntu, then you can go to this start screen, select the Ubuntu, and maybe the next step would be the configure Ubuntu. And here you will see the terminal where you can just log into your Ubuntu machine, so that you just need to provide the username and the password. And after that, once you have installed the Ubuntu, then the first command which you need to run is the sudo apt update onto the terminal so that it can update its packages. And at last, you can install and use the GUI packages which is provided by WSL for your Ubuntu, so that you can use the graphical interface for your Ubuntu machine. So just follow these instructions and set up your WSL based on the Windows 10 or Windows 11 operating system. And once you have a WSL and Ubuntu set up on your Windows machine, then you can simply jump to the next instruction, like the second and the third operating system, like Ubuntu or CentOS. So here I'm assuming that on your Windows machine you are using Ubuntu, so you can just follow the sudo apt get install Ansible command, which I'll show you onto my Ubuntu machine, that how to install the Ansible. So you can just simply follow those instructions to install Ansible, because on Windows machine you are running Ubuntu. Then you just need to copy these instructions over there, and you can just get yourself started with that. So here's my terminal, and this is my Ubuntu machine. So first of all, let's verify the version of my Ubuntu machine by running this command. So here you can see this is the Debian based operating system. So Debian based, also like Ubuntu is a Debian based operating system. So all the command which I'm running over here will be applicable for any Ubuntu machine. So if you are using Ubuntu on your Windows machine, then you can simply run these commands to install the Ansible. So the first command which I'm just going to run, I'll first of all clear the screen, is sudo apt-get update. So this is the first command I would recommend you to run so that it can update all the apt packages. All right, so that has been done successfully. The next command which I'm just going to run is to install the Ansible repository. But before that, I'm just going to run this install software properties common command. Type yes, it will install it. Okay, that's been done. I'll clear the screen. Now I'm just going to install the repository from where we are just going to fetch the Ansible. So this is the command for installing the Ansible repository onto my Ubuntu machine. So I'm just going to simply hit enter. I'm just going to press enter, and here we have downloaded the repository for Ansible. And the next command which I'm just going to run is the sudo apt-get update once again, because we have just recently added the Ansible repository. So this is the command to update the repository definitions over here. And here we can see our Ansible repository has been updated. Okay, I'll clear the screen, and the final command which I'm just gonna run is the sudo apt-get update install Ansible, and hit enter. Type yes. All right, so here you can see our Ansible installation has been finished. So I'm just gonna clear the screen, and I'm just gonna run the Ansible version command to verify the version. I would say I'll clear the screen once more. I need to add one more dash over here to get the correct version. And here you can see this is the version Ansible 2.10 which we have installed onto our Ubuntu machine. I'll put all this command into the description section so that you can follow this command to install the Ansible onto your Ubuntu system. The next we are just going to install the Ansible onto the CentOS, the YAML package manager. Okay, so the next installation which we are going to do, we are just going to install onto our CentOS operating system. So we have covered the Windows, we have covered the Ubuntu. The next thing which we are going to do, we are going to install the Ansible onto the CentOS. So this is the terminal of my CentOS machine. I'm just going to minimize this thing. So this is the terminal from my CentOS machine. So first of all, let's verify the CentOS version, and the command for that is cat etc CentOS release, and it will let you know the version. So here I'm using the CentOS release 8 version. So that we have verified. The next thing which we are going to do, we are just going to run the YAML update command so that we update all the package manager. So the command is sudo YAML update. Okay, so now we have finished the YAML update command. So I'm just going to clear the screen. The next command which I'm just going to run is the YAML install EPL release, and I'm just going to add sudo over here. So this will basically install the EPL release package, and after that we will be able to install the Ansible onto our CentOS machine. Type yes. And here we have successfully installed the EPL release package. And the next command which I'm just going to run is I'm just going to clear the screen first of all, sudo yum install Ansible. Alright, so now the Ansible yum install Ansible command has just finished. I'm just going to clear the screen, and I'm just going to verify the Ansible installation by running the command Ansible version. And here you can see we have installed the Ansible 2.13.5 onto our CentOS system. The next thing which we are going to try out is we are just going to install Ansible onto our Mac OS. If you are using the Mac OS, then installation of Ansible on a Mac OS is pretty simple. You just need to rely on the brew package manager, and the command for installing the Ansible is the brew install Ansible. And that should take care of the Ansible installation onto your Mac OS. So here you can see I have already installed Ansible. That's why it is showing me that Ansible has already installed. But in case if you don't have an Ansible installed onto your Mac operating system, then you just simply need to execute brew install Ansible, and that will take care of the Ansible installation. Now, after installing the Ansible, the next lab session, we are going to discuss more about the Ansible project setup. So here I have taken a very brief screenshot where I have shown a project structure of my Ansible project. So where I have shown like how I have created the inventory file, where is my host file, what are the roles I need to create inside my Ansible playbook, what does it mean by the task, and how should I set up my Ansible playbook YAML. So this is the project setup we will take a deep dive into for our next session. Welcome back, and till now so far we have seen like what the Ansible is and how to do the Ansible installation. But in this lab session we are going to take a look onto the project structure of our Ansible. So here we will talk about the inventory file, we will talk about the task and our main playbook and how to execute it. So here you can see onto the screen, this is the typical project structure of my Ansible. So here we are talking about the inventory, roles, and my main playbook file. But don't worry, we are going to take a look onto the each file which is present inside our project structure. Moving to the next slide, so here you will see a remote server with a dedicated IP. So I'm just assuming that this is going to be my dedicated server, and for this server, I'm just going to write my Ansible playbook. So first of all, in this slide, you will see on the right hand side my dedicated server, which is a remote server present somewhere. And after that, you will on the left hand side, you will see this is the typical project structure of my Ansible. So we'll start from the host file. So if you'll see, whenever you work with Ansible, then you need to create the host file, and inside that host file you need to mention the either IP address or the domain name of our particular remote machine. So here you can see this is the IP address which I have written it over here inside my host file, so that Ansible knows like which host it can connect. So here this is a single server I have used inside my Ansible playbook, so that's why I'm using the single IP over here. But in case if you are having a multiple server, then you can create a multiple entries inside this host file. So this is how it works. So here you will have a host file in your project inside the inventory directory, and inside that inventory directory you can create a multiple host file also. That's absolutely okay. So I'm just taking one example for remote server, so that's why I have only one host file, and this host file contains the IP address, and this IP address will point to our remote machine. So that's the first basic file which we need for creating our Ansible playbook, and that is our host file. Alright, moving to the next file where we will be talking about the roles and the task associated with particular role. So here onto the screen, if you'll see, this is the main.yml, which is a task present inside a role, and the role name is Python. So pay attention carefully over here. For an Ansible playbook, you can have a multiple role, and each role can have a task. So here I have created a role that is Python, and inside that Python we have a task, and that task we have defined inside our main.yml. And what's the purpose of that particular task? So in this task we are trying to execute the Python installation, and after that we are just trying to create a directory, and then after that we are just trying to install the Apache. So this task basically contains the three instructions which we need to perform onto our remote machine using Ansible. So once we execute this Ansible playbook, then this particular task, that is Python task, will be executed, and once it is executed, then these three instructions will be passed to the server using our Ansible. So that's the purpose of our roles and the task inside our Ansible. Alright, so now the final piece inside our Ansible project is our Ansible playbook. So if you look onto the screen, so this is the name of my playbook. So the playbook name is VM setup playbook.yml. You can keep any name of your choice for your Ansible playbook. That's absolutely okay. Now, since we have talked about task as well as our host file, so we need to include both the host as well as the task inside our Ansible playbook. So if you see over here, so this is my VM setup playbook YAML. That is my playbook for Ansible. And in this file, you will see two things. So at the line number 3, you will find host. That means what host it is going to connect. So here I have specified all. So that means it is going to execute this playbook on all the hosts which I have defined inside my host file. So here in my host file, I only defined one remote server. So this playbook will run on that particular remote machine. So if we have more than one host inside my host file, then this playbook will run on all those host machine. So that's why the host all we have defined over here. The next thing we need to define is the remote user. So whenever you try to connect to any remote machine using SSH, then you need to have a username. So here we need to define the username. What will be the remote user? So here I'm using Ubuntu as my remote user for that particular machine. And this might differ because if you're working on an Ansible project, then you might have a remote server access with your own username. So you need to use your own username instead of Ubuntu over here. So that's the purpose of the remote user. The third thing which you will see over here into this playbook is the roles. So here, the second picture, if you'll see over here, so where we have defined the main.yml and where we have defined the different tasks. So this is the role which we need to include, and that is Python. And if that Python role is available inside our project screenshot, where you can see roles, Python, and tasks. So here we have included the Python role. So this is how this complete Ansible works, and how you put host as well as your roles and tasks as well as your own user, if you are having your own user assigned to that remote machine. So you need to put the username onto your Ansible playbook. All right, so now you know like how the Ansible project looks like and what is your host, inventory, roles, and tasks. Now what's the command for executing this whole project? So here onto the screen you will see the Ansible playbook command which I have mentioned for this particular project. And this Ansible playbook command I have broke into three parts. So first part is the Ansible playbook. That's the actual keyword which we need to use after installing the Ansible. Second, we need to specify like which host on which we want to run. So here we have specified inventory, and then inside that inventory we need to specify the exact path of our host file. So that host file is present under inventory, VM setup playbook, and host. That's the name of my host file. So you need to carefully assign the host name or the host path over here. The third thing is the actual playbook name. So that's my actual playbook which I have created, which consists of roles, a remote user, and the host file on which host we want to execute actually. So this is the Ansible playbook command which you need to run to execute this whole project. All right, so now you have a little bit of fair understanding on the Ansible project structure. Now we will take a deep dive into the each individual file which I have just explained to you. So here onto the screen, the first file which we are going to see over here is the VM setup playbook.yml. So here, first of all, we need to specify the name of the playbook. That's something, a description which you can put. Second, here we need to specify the host. So that I have specified as all. So let's take a look onto the host file first of all. So here onto this project, you will find a host file which I have created. And inside that host file, I have created a suitable name like GCP host because that virtual machine is on to Google Cloud. But that's something I will explain it later, like how to set up the Google Cloud or AWS. But that's something for later sessions. But here, I have specified the IP address, and this is the private key which I will be using to connect to that particular machine. But I have a next chapter for this SSH private key and public key setup with the Ansible. But the key thing over here is this particular IP address. So that's the remote machine IP address which I will be needing, or this Ansible playbook will be needing. So that's why this playbook contains the host all. So that means all the hosts inside this particular host file. So here I have only one. If in case I have more than one or two, then I can execute the playbook on all those hosts. So that's the purpose of that all inside that particular Ansible playbook. Okay, moving back to the playbook once again. So now we have seen the name, we have seen the host. Now we need to look onto the remote user. So as you remember, whenever you connect to the remote machine, then you need to have a remote user. So here the remote user is Rahul Wagh. So that's the user which exists onto that remote machine. I'll show you. All right, so this is my terminal and I'm just gonna SSH into this machine using the username Rahul Wagh. So I'm just gonna paste the command over here. So if you'll see, this is the SSH and this is my host. This is my private SSH key. And this is the username and the IP address of my machine. And in case if you are not using the private key, then you can simply use the username and the password assigned to you. So here I'm just using private and the public key. That's why I don't need to assign my username and password. But this is just an example. If you have a username and password, then it's absolutely okay to SSH using the username and password. And you can just simply enter, type yes to accept it. And here you can see I just logged in into my machine and the username is Rahul Wagh because that's the user I have created on that Linux machine. So I just wanted to show you because if you go to this Ansible playbook once again, so that's why I have used the remote user over here as Rahul Wal. So you need to know like what kind of a user you want to become over there. And if you want to execute with the root, then you can mention the root also over here. That's absolutely fine with the Ansible. Now the last thing which is left inside this playbook is the roles, and roles I'm using over here is the Python. So here if you take a look onto this roles directory, I'll just close it and I reopen it. So here we are having a roles, and inside that role we have defined the role as Python, and inside that Python role we have a task, and that task contains main.yml. So if you open that main.yml, then you will find the instruction which we need to execute onto that remote machine. So here I'm installing Python. I'm just creating one directory over here, and then I'm installing the Apache. So that's the task definition or the task configuration of our Ansible looks like. So these instructions gonna execute onto our Ansible playbook. Now the next thing which I'm just gonna do, I'm just gonna simply run the playbook and see if that works or not. All right, so now I have opened the terminal once again, and I'm just gonna execute the Ansible playbook command. So this is my Ansible playbook command, and I'm just gonna simply hit enter, type yes for accepting it. And since I'm using the private key, so I don't need to input my username and password. And in case if you're not using the public and private key, then you need to enter the username and password so that Ansible playbook can run. So that's the difference between this setup and the username password setup. And this Ansible playbook might take a couple of minutes to execute it. So I'll just fast forward this session, and I'll come back when this playbook has executed successfully. All right, so here you can see our Ansible playbook had just finished, and you can see the status over here, 3 changed. That means it has installed Python, it has created a directory, and it has also installed the Apache 2. That's why the count is 3. And just in case if playbook fails and if there are any error, then those errors will be visible over here in the red color font. But here our Ansible playbook has successfully finished. So I'm just going to clear the screen over here, and we are just going to verify by logging into the server or just SSH into the server. So this is the command for SSH into the server. I'm just going to hit enter, and here you can see I'm just logged in, and I'm just going to run the first command, that is Python 3 version. And here you can see Python has been installed. So our first task has been completed successfully. The next command which I'm just going to run is the ls command. And here you can see the directory basic HTTP server has been created. So that directory I just wanted to create. And the final thing which I need to verify is I'll just clear the screen over here, the systemctl status Apache 2. And here you can see the Apache 2 service is green. That means our Apache 2 has been installed using Ansible. So that's the verification part of our Ansible playbook, which we have just executed. So now with that, we have finished our chapter where we have seen like how to set up your Ansible project and how to execute your Ansible playbook. Now into the next chapter, we will take a look onto the public and private key, how to create your public and private key, and how to associate those public and private key with your Ansible playbook. Alright, so in this chapter, we are going to talk about the SSH keys and the Ansible playbook. So whenever we talk about the SSH keys, then we are talking about the 2 keys. One is the public key and one is the private key. And since we are working with the Ansible, so the private key part will always remain with our Ansible playbook, which is local to you. And the public key will always go onto the remote server. So first of all, we are just going to create those keys, and then we are going to use the private key for our host inside our host file, and the public key which we are going to copy it to our remote server. Let's switch over to our desktop and see the demo. So here onto the screen, you can see on the left hand side, this is my Ansible playbook where my private key is. And then we are going to execute the Ansible playbook, and then it is going to communicate with our remote server with a dedicated IP. This IP is just an example. And in this remote server, we will have our public key. But the question comes like how you are going to generate the SSH keys. So on the screen, you will see on the left hand side, this is the command which we are going to use to create our SSH keys. So here we will be creating 2 keys. So on the right hand side, you will see Ansible demo and Ansible demo.pub. So Ansible demo under Ansible underscore demo is going to be our private key, and Ansible underscore demo.pub will be our public key. So these 2 keys we will be creating, and the public key we will try to copy it to our remote server. So I'll switch over to my terminal, and first of all, let's create the SSH keys. So here is my terminal, and the command which I'm just going to run is the SSH keys in. And here it will ask for the name of the keys which you want to create. So I'm just going to use the same location. I just wanted to create the keys onto the same location, and the name of the key is Ansible _demo. But you can specify your own path where you want to create those SSH keys. I'm just creating it over here. That just for an example. And simply hit enter. I don't want to associate any passphrase, so I'm just going to keep it empty. Again empty. And that's how we are just going to create the SSH keys. So here you will see this is our first key, that is Ansible _demo. That is our private key. And this is going to be the second key, which is our public key, that is also present under .ssh, and it is ending with the extension .pub. That means that is our public key. Now let's take a look onto the previous slide which I have shown. So here we have created the Ansible demo, that is our private key as well as the public key. The next thing which we need to do is we need to copy the public key to our remote server. That means we need to copy Ansible _demo.pub key to our remote server. So I'm just gonna use the SSH copy command to copy this public key to our remote server. So this is my terminal, and the command which I'm just gonna use is SSH copy ID. If I could show you over here. So this is the SSH copy ID command. After that, I need to use the I flag, and here I need to specify the public key which is present onto my system. So this is the public key which is present, and after that I need to specify the username account which is present onto that remote server and the IP address of that particular remote server. So once it is done, then you just simply need to hit enter, and it will ask for the password of our remote server. So again, I'm just going to copy the password from my notepad and paste it over here. And here you can see the one key has been added. So that means we have successfully added our public key to the remote server. Now, coming back to the presentation once again. So the part of copying the public key to the remote server is over. Now we need to associate our private key with our Ansible playbook. Okay, so here's my Ansible playbook. This is my Ansible playbook, and where we need to associate our private key path. So you need to go to the host file. This is the IP address of my remote machine, and this is the path. Actually, this is the path of my private key. So here, this is the keyword Ansible SSH private key file. That's the keyword from Ansible. And here you need to specify the path of your private key. So here I'm just going to use my new key, that is Ansible _demo. That's going to be my private key for this Ansible playbook. So I'm just going to open the terminal once again, and I'm just going to rerun the Ansible playbook with my new private key. So here the playbook command is again pretty simple. Ansible playbook, then the inventory file where my host and the private key definition exist, and the name of my playbook. And I'm just simply gonna hit enter. And now this time it is gonna use my newly created private key from my local machine to connect to our remote server. So here you can see our command has successfully completed, and this time I have reduced the playbook. So over here, if you'll see, so I'm just creating a very basic directory just to verify that I'm able to connect to remote server and I'm able to create a directory into my remote machine. Let's SSH into or log in into the server and verify that our directory has been created or not. So I'm just going to use this command to SSH into my system. And here we are able to log in into our remote server, and I'm just going to run the ls command, and here you can see our directory has been created with the name basic http server. Alright, so now you have seen like how to create the public key and the private key and how to use those keys to SSH into your remote server while you're running the Ansible playbook. But now into the next session, we'll take a look on one of the most basic concept, that is YAML, which is used for writing the Ansible playbook. So we'll take a look onto the example YAML which I have used in previous session. So that is going to be one of the basic YAML, and we will focus on the concept like what are the indentation rule, what are the syntax you need to follow while writing your own Ansible playbook. So that is going to be the next session for our Ansible series. Alright, so let's talk about the YAML and why should we use YAML for writing your own Ansible playbook. Obviously, the first question comes in my mind that what is YAML and what it stands for. So the full form of YAML is YAML and a markup language. As the name suggests, YAML isn't a markup language. So that means you don't need to use those traditional syntax for writing your YAMLs. So if there are no any markup syntax which you need to use for writing your own YAML, then what kind of rules you should use for writing your YAML? So whenever you try to write a YAML, whether it's for your Ansible playbook or if you're trying to define any configuration. So whenever you write YAML, then you need to carefully look on the indentations. Now you might be wondering like what is indentation? So you might be familiar with the concept of indentation in some other programming languages. But when we talk about the YAMLs, then you need to follow that indentation rule very carefully. So here onto the screen, you can see the example of an indentation which I took. So here you will see item 1 and item 2 that are starting on a certain horizontal position. But sub item 1 and sub item 2 is starting on a different horizontal position from item 1 and item 2. So these different horizontal position for each line item is called as indentation. But you need to be really careful on defining the parent item and the child item. So here the parent item I'm talking about is the item 2 is the parent, and the sub item 1 and sub item 2 is the child. So parent item will have a different horizontal position, but sub item will have a different horizontal position. So these horizontal position will define like which is parent and which is child. And using this concept, we are going to write our Ansible playbook where we will be writing the parent item with the task and the description, and then also we are going to write the child item inside our playbook. Let's take an example where I have written a very basic YAML for my Ansible. So whenever you write a YAML, then you should start your first line with the 3 dashes. So here you can see onto the screen, my first line starts with the 3 dashes. Moving to the next line, and there where it comes the name. So the name attribute defines like what your task does. So here you can put a meaningful sentence like which describe what kind of a task you're trying to do. So here I'm just trying to create a directory. That's why I have put a description over here that is meaningful, that particular task. But the second line always starts with a single dash. So it is always like single dash and then name and then your description of that particular task. Now moving to the third line, and the third line is depend upon like what kind of an Ansible playbook you are writing. So here I'm just trying to create a directory. So here I need to use the module name. So the module which I need to use for this playbook is the file. So that's why my third line I'm using the keyword that is file. And that file module is responsible for creating or deleting the directory whenever I am working with the Ansible. So that's why the file name comes from. And if you look carefully, the line number 3, that's starting at a certain horizontal position, and that horizontal position is defined by a single tab. Alright, so now we have defined the parent attribute as file. The next 2 lines where we are going to define the child attribute. So whenever you're working with the file module of a Ansible, then you need to define the 2 more attributes. That is path and the state. And if you look carefully over here, the indentation of a path and the state attribute is little bit more than the parent attribute of file. So here you will see I have put 2 tabs for defining path as well as 2 tabs for defining the state. And with these 2 additional tabs or the indentation of a horizontal space, you tell YAML that these are going to be my child attribute. So here path and the state are gonna be the child for a file module. And what's the purpose of a path and a state attribute? So whenever you work with the file module and if you're trying to create a directory, then you need to specify the path, like where you need to create your directory. So in path attribute, you're just going to define the path where our directory will be created. And the state attribute is going to define that it will be created or it will be deleted. Okay, so this is the simplest example which I have taken to explain how to write the YAML for your Ansible playbook. But considering the same example, you can write your own Ansible playbook where you can have multiple tasks. So this is just a one task where I'm creating a directory, but you can have n number of a task inside your playbook. But the rules are same. You just need to repeat this process and follow the same indentation rules for writing your next task for your Ansible playbook. I hope the YAML part is clear to you. The next file which I'm talking about is the host file. So in the host file, where you're trying to define the host where you want to execute your Ansible playbook. The host file can exist with the name hosts, or it can exist with the name hosts.ini. And you can write the host file with YAML and without YAML also. So the first example which you can see over here, where I have written the host file without any YAML rules. So here I'm just trying to define the name of my host. So here I have just taken an example GCP host. And after that, in the next line, I have written the IP address of my remote machine. So that's the simplest way of writing the host file without using YAML syntax. But the next example which I'm showing to you is a little bit more complex. And here I have taken the same example which I have written without YAML as well as with YAML. So in the host file, you can follow both the rules, like with the YAML and without YAML. And you can construct the parent and the child relationship between the different hosts. So this is the way you can create your own host file. So it just depends upon you, like which kind of a syntax you want to prefer. But always remember, try to put a meaningful name on each host so that you can identify and you can pass the correct host while running your Ansible playbook. So this is the host file which you can write either in YAML or without using YAML syntax. I hope this session will help you to understand Ansible in a more better way, and you can write your own Ansible playbooks with multiple tasks and the host file. In the next session of this Ansible series, we will be talking about the handlers, environment variables, and if then else statement. So stay tuned for that, and if you haven't followed the Ansible series, then there are some previous lab session on Ansible which you can go and check. So see you into the next session. Till then, take care and bye-bye. Hello there, this is Rahul, and today let's talk about the Ansible handlers. Before we jump into the Ansible handlers demo, it's really important to understand what the Ansible handlers are and when should we use the Ansible handlers inside your Ansible playbook. Let's take a very hypothetical scenario that you are having a website and you need to update the content onto your website. You have an Ansible playbook. What it does, it just copies the updated HTML file onto the server so that you can update the content of your website. But there is one strict requirement that when you update the content or when you update the HTML file onto your application server, then you need to restart the whole application server so that the updated content can reflect onto your website. So how would you automate the whole process? So the first task in this process is copy the updated HTML content onto your application server. After that, once you have copied all the content, you need to restart the application server. So these two tasks you need to handle, and to handle these kind of a task with Ansible, you should use the Ansible handlers. Alright, I will not make the things complicated. So here onto the screen, you can see the Ansible playbook for my Ansible handler. So the first task over here is to set up the Nginx application server. This is just an example, that's why I am keeping the things simple over here. So my first task is to install the Nginx server, and after that I'm just gonna copy the content or the HTML file which I just want to update onto my application server. So this is the second task which I will use to copy or to update the content on my website. Now you might be wondering, like, how should we incorporate the Ansible handlers over here? So here I will be using an attribute that is notify, and that attribute we need to define what task it is going to do. So here the task which I am going to do is restart Nginx server because I have already updated the index.html onto my application server. Now you have used the notify attribute inside your Ansible playbook. Now you should define that particular task so that you can restart the Nginx server. And for that purpose, we are just gonna use the handler. So there is one more attribute which you can see over here is the handler. And inside that handler, we are just gonna write the task to restart the Nginx server. Alright, so now you have a little bit of understanding on what the Ansible handlers are. Let's switch over to the desktop and see the Ansible playbook in demo. Let's start with the demo, and onto the screen you can see the Ansible playbook. But let's first start with the project structure. So on the left hand side, you can see this is the Ansible Handler project which I have created, and inside that Ansible Handlers project you will find inventory and the roles directory. So let's take a look onto the inventory directory where I have defined the hosts file where I will be storing the remote server IP address or the remote server machine name. So if you open this file, then you will find the remote machine name over here. Just ignore the line number 2 because I have commented out. Alright, so now we have seen that we will be running the Ansible playbook onto this remote machine. This is my AWS EC2 instance, but you can just replace this machine name with any IP address of your remote server. Alright, The next task is the roles. So here in the roles, I have created a role named handler. And whenever you create a role, then you need to define the main.yml in any Ansible playbook. So here I have created the main.yml. So here I have written the task for installing my application server, which is Nginx, which you can see over here. And here I have just written the second task to copy the index.html, the content of my website. And the third task which I have written is to update the content of my website. So here I'm just trying to copy the updated HTML to the destination directory. So this is the simplest Ansible Handlers playbook which I have written it over here. And in the last task, I'm just trying to call the Ansible Handler so that it can restart the Nginx server. So this is an Ansible Handler playbook which I'll be using for this particular demo. One thing I forgot to show you is where I have written the handler. So here you just need to open the main playbook, that is Ansible Handler playbook.yml, and here I have written the handler, which is restart Nginx server. So here you need to put the correct name over here, which is restart Nginx, the same name I have used inside this notify attribute, which is restart Nginx. So you should put the same name in both the places. Okay, so coming back to the handler, so you need to use the attribute handler, you need to assign the name to the handler, and then you need to define like what kind of things you want to do with your handlers. So here I just wanted to restart the Nginx service. So the name, the attribute which I'm just going to use is the Nginx service name over here. And the state is restarted, which means Ansible is going to instruct that please restart this particular service. So this is how I'm just going to define or structure my Ansible Handlers playbook. And also I'll put the GitHub repository link of this particular repo into the description section. So feel free to copy that particular repo to use this Ansible Handler example. Now we have seen the Ansible Handlers playbook example. Let's try to run this particular Ansible playbook and just see how the things works. So just to give you a little bit brief. So first it is going to install the Nginx server. After that it is going to copy that particular index.html, and as soon as we update that particular index.html with updated content, then it should restart our Nginx server. So that's the whole purpose of our Ansible handler, because we just wanted to restart something based on certain action. So that action is we have updated the HTML content, and that's for the reason we need a restart to our Nginx server. Okay, so this is my terminal and I'm just going to run the Ansible playbook command. So here, this is my Ansible playbook command. So that's the keyword, that is Ansible playbook. After that, you need to specify the name of the inventory. That's the inventory flag, which you first need to use. And after that, you need to specify the host file, where your host file resides. And if you go back over here, so here is the inventory and this is the host file where you have your remote server, which I have already mentioned. Okay, switching back to the terminal. So after that, you need to specify the name of the playbook. So this is the name of the playbook and I can show you once again. So this is my Ansible Handler project and this is the Ansible Handler playbook which I'm using right now. So let's switch back to terminal, and this is the command which I'll be executing to test my Ansible Handler. So simply hit enter. And if this is the first time you're connecting to your remote server, then it is asking you to, do you really want to connect? So simply type yes. Alright, so as you can see, my Ansible playbook had just finished. So let's start each task one by one. So here, this is the first task, update apt cache and install Nginx. So this is the first task which I have written. So let me open the playbook. So yeah, this is the first task which I just wanted to execute, and that will install the Nginx. So if you go to the terminal, so here you can see this first task has been executed. Second task is to copy the index.html, and remember, this is the first time we are copying the index.html and we don't need to restart. So that's why this task will not call the Ansible handler. So this is the second task we just wanted to execute. So just check, this is the index.html we just wanted to copy. And this index.html is present into the same directory where I have defined the task or the main.yml. All right, let's go further. After copying the index.html, the next task is to copy the updated HTML to the destination directory, and just take a look. So this is the updated HTML which is present into the same directory, and I just wanted to copy into the same directory where my index.html is. So it will just rename this particular file, which is update.html, to the index.html once it executes. Alright, so as soon as it copies the update.html, it should call the restart nginx handler. So let's take a look onto the terminal. So here it is copying the file first of all, and after that it is calling the restart nginx handler. So let's take a look onto the handler, so which is present over here. So this is the handler and the name of the task is restart nginx. So let's take a look onto the terminal once again. So here you can see it is calling the restart nginx server handler. So this is how this whole Ansible playbook works. So where you have created or where you have installed the nginx server, and then you have copied the index.html, then you have updated the index.html, and after the update you need a restart, and for that purpose you have used the Ansible handler. So well, this is just an idea which I just wanted to show you, like how the Ansible handlers work, but this idea can be used for any other different use cases. So the idea is pretty simple, like whenever you want to execute something which is dependent on some other task, then you should use the Ansible handler. So here the dependent task was to trigger the Ansible handler when you updated the particular content of the file. So here the content is index.html. So as soon as I have updated the index.html, so I need to restart the nginx server. So that's the dependency I had between those tasks. So if you have a similar dependency in your project, then you could use the Ansible handlers for your own purpose. And the limitation of Ansible handler is not up to restarting a server. You can trigger the mail, you can execute the batch. So there are n number of possibilities which you can execute or which you can implement with the Ansible handlers. I hope you liked today's session onto the Ansible handler and how to use those. In the next session, we will be taking a look onto the Ansible variables. So see you into the next session of our Ansible. Till then, take care and bye-bye. Hello there, this is Rahul, and let's continue with our Ansible series, and in this session we are going to talk about the Ansible variables. So what we are going to cover into this Ansible variable session. So we will first start with the very basics data types, that is string, boolean, and then gradually we will take a look onto the list and the dictionaries also. And furthermore, into this session, we are also going to take a look how to pass the variables at a runtime using the command line, and as well as how to access the variables from your vars file. And at last, we are going to take a look onto the variables precedence. So this is going to be a really comprehensive guide onto the Ansible variables. All right, now switching over to the desktop, and onto this screen, you can see this is the project which I have created, where I have created a lots of variables and the sample files over here. So I'm just going to share this link of this GitHub repository into the description section. So feel free to use this project and you can reference this example from this GitHub repository. Let's start with a very simple example. So here onto the screen, you can see this is the playbook which I have written. And the first variable which I'm just going to create is the string variable. And here onto the line number 11, you will see I have created a variable, and the name of the variable which I have kept over here is the main playbook variable. So that's the name of my variable. And the value I have assigned over here is the hello world from main playbook. So this is the simplest variable which I have created inside my playbook. And here, if you take a look carefully, the line number 9, here I have to put vars as a keyword inside your playbook. So this is the attribute which tells Ansible playbook that now everything below the vars or inside the vars is going to be the variables. So this is the first way of defining a variable inside a Ansible playbook. Now the question comes like how you're going to use that Ansible variable which you have created just now. So here inside the task, which is line number 13, here I have created a task which is a very simple task. I am keeping the playbook very simple over here, and inside that I have put a debug parameter over here, and inside that I have used that particular variable. So if you check the name of the variable, that is main underscore playbook underscore variable. So that's the name of my variable, and that's the variable which I have used at line number 11. So this is the simplest way you can create a variable, and you can use that particular variable inside your task. Now how to verify and how to test this playbook. So there is a readme which I have already created inside this Ansible project example. So here you can just run the first playbook command, because this is the simplest variable example which I'm taking. That's why you just use this first command over here. And there are a couple of more examples I have written over here, but those we will take a look later. But just to keep the thing simple, this is the command which I'm just going to use to run my playbook. And the command is pretty simple. If I can go over here and if I do the soft wrap, then this is the inventory where I'm putting my host file. But since this playbook is running on my local host, so you don't really need to have a remote server over there. And secondly, this is the name of my playbook, that is Ansible Variable playbook.yml. So that's the name of my playbook, which you can see over here also. So the playbook command, playbook run command is pretty simple over here. Let's copy this command from here and go to your terminal. So this is my terminal, and I'm just going to run this command over here to execute my playbook. And here we need to verify the task. So the task which we were referring to is string variable from main playbook variable. And here you can see the output which I have printed, the value of that particular variable. And that the value is hello world in main playbook. So let's check back into our Ansible playbook. So if you come over here, so this is the name of the task which we have just seen and the value of the variable. So this is how you're just going to create a very simple variable inside your playbook, and you're just going to use that playbook or that variable inside your playbook. Moving further, now we have seen the string variable. Let's try to create a Boolean variable. So here onto the screen, you can see I have created a one more Boolean variable, and the name of the variable which I have kept it is like is enabled. And the value I have assigned is true. And here at the line number 21 till 25, you can see this is how I'm just going to use that particular Boolean variable. So here is the name of my task, which you can keep anything. And the message which I'm just going to print over here is variable is true. But this message will be printed when this particular value of that particular variable is true. So here you need to put a when condition for the Boolean variables. So based on this value of that particular Boolean variable, this particular message will be printed. So here the value is true. That means our message should be printed onto our console. Okay, so I'm just going to open my terminal over here, and I'm just going to run the same command which I have just executed previously and just check the task. And here you can see the task is Boolean variable, and the value which I have got over here is variable is true. That means the true value has been satisfied and I'm able to print the message. I'm just going to clear the screen, and next thing I'm just going to do, I'm just going to set the value to the false, and let's verify the task once again. So here just go back to the playbook and set the value to false, and go to terminal and rerun the same command over here. So here you can see, so Boolean variable task has been executed, but nothing got printed over here into the message. So that means this is how Boolean is evaluated based on true and false. If you set the value to true, then that particular message is getting printed. And if you set it to the false, then that particular message is not going to print. Moving to the next variable, which is our list. And here you can see line number 17 till line number 20, we have created a variable that is list. And the name of the list is fruits. And inside that particular list, I have added three fruits actually. Apple, banana, and orange. So this is how you're just going to create a list variable inside your Ansible. And the task is going to be pretty much same. So here I have created a task where I'm just going to use that particular variable. And here the name of the variable which I have used over here is fruits. So let's verify this particular variable. Go back to terminal and run the command. And here you can see we have printed the name or the list of fruit variables over here. Now we have seen the list variable, but is there possibility in Ansible to access the index position or a particular element in the particular list? So here we have created a list of fruits, but if I want to access the particular element inside that list, then how can I do that? So Ansible provides a way, and you need to use the index position. So here you can see I have created a one more task, and inside that task I have specified the position of that particular element which I want to access inside the list. So here I have mentioned 0, so which means I'm trying to access the apple fruit inside that particular list. So let's go back to the terminal and verify whether it works or not. So I'll just clear the screen and I run the playbook. And here you can see the previous task where we have printed all the element present inside the list. And in this task, we are just printing that particular element which is present inside the list, and that is apple. So this is how you can access the elements inside the list with the index positions. Moving to the next variable, and this time we are going to take an example of a dictionary variable. So here onto the screen, you can see from the line number 22 till 26, I have created a dictionary. And what is dictionary? So here, this is the name of the dictionary, that is fruit prices. And inside that dictionary, you will see the price of an apple with its value. But just remember from the previous thing, so a previous list variable was only containing a list of a single element. So that is apple, banana, oranges. There was no price associated with it. But here in the dictionary, you have a dictionary name that is fruit prices. And inside that dictionary, you will find the name of the fruit along with its prices. So this is how we are just going to create a dictionary inside the Ansible playbook. Let's scroll further down into the playbook and print the value of a dictionary. So here I have created one more task, that is dictionary variable, and accessing the value of those particular dictionaries. And this is the name of that particular dictionary variable which I'm going to use. So I'm just going to head back to terminal and I'm just going to run the playbook once again. And here you can see the dictionary variable task has been executed successfully, and here I can see the values of my particular dictionary. So this is how you are going to create a dictionary, and this is how you are going to access that particular dictionary variable inside your playbook. Now let's play around this dictionary variable. So I'll scroll up and here you can see this is the dictionary we are having. So what if, is there any possibility to access that particular element inside that dictionary? So here I would like to access only Apple. So is it possible? So my answer is yes. Ansible provides you a way to access a particular element present inside the dictionary. So here I have created one more task for accessing that particular variable, that is Apple, inside the dictionary. So what you need to do is you just need to create the task with the name, and then you need to put the variable name of that particular dictionary along with the particular element name, that is Apple. So that's how you're going to access that particular element which is present inside that particular dictionary. So I'm just going to head over to terminal to verify this. So let's head over here and run the playbook. And here you can see the dictionary variable accessing individual specific field. So here you can see the value of that particular element, that is Apple, and that is 0.5. So this is how you're just going to access that particular element which is present inside your dictionary. And this concept is pretty much same if you compare with the list when you're trying to access the Apple present inside that list. So this is how you're going to use that particular accessing of that particular element inside the dictionary. Now I'm just going to take one more example on top of that particular dictionary. So where I'm just going to take one more variable. So if you're familiar with any programming languages, then you create multiple variables and then you assign a particular value of that variable to any other variable. So here we have created a dictionary, and from that dictionary I'm just going to fetch the value of that Apple and then assign that value to another variable. So here onto the screen you can see the line number 54 till 57. So here I'm just trying to fetch the value of that particular Apple and then assign that value of that particular variable to another variable. So that we call it as a register variable in Ansible. So here you need to use the keyword register so that you can register that particular variable, and this particular value which is present over here is going to be assigned to this particular variable. And to verify this, what we are going to do, we are just going to print that value of that registered variable. So here I'm just going to print it onto my command line. So this is how you are going to do the variable assignment to any other variable using the registered variable in the Ansible playbook. Okay, let's open the terminal and run the playbook to verify the value. So I'm just going to clear this one and run the playbook. And here you can see get the price of an apple and print the value of a registered variable. So this particular task here, you can see there is nothing got printed. So if you can check over here, so in this particular task, we are just doing the assignment. We are not trying to print anything. So we are just trying to assign the value of an apple to the registered variable. And after that, in the next task, which is to print the value of a registered variable, where we are just going to print the value of that particular registered variable. So which you can see and verify from this particular terminal. So this is how you are just going to play around with a multiple variable assignment into your Ansible playbook. Alright, so now we have seen the register variable in Ansible. Let's increase the complexity of variables a little bit more. And here we are just going to play around with a couple of dictionaries. So the first dictionary we will take is the fruit price list, and the second dictionary which I'm just going to take is the nested variable dictionary over here. So here you can see this is the fruit basket, and this is the first element inside that particular fruit basket, and there is a name, and then inside that there is a particular list of fruits which is apple and orange. And similarly there is one more fruit basket for yen, and there are fruits like banana and apple inside that fruit basket. So what I'm just going to do, there is a scenario which I'm just going to take. So first of all, I'm just going to fetch the fruit basket. Then I'm just going to fetch the first element, that is the John's basket. And inside that basket, I'm just going to fetch the apple. And after fetching this particular fruit from this basket, I'm just going to use the fruit price list to fetch the prices of that particular apple. So that's the scenario, and I just wanted to show you that this is how you're just gonna mess around the dictionaries and you're just gonna iterate on those particular complex dictionaries. All right, so now how to achieve that? So if you go down into the task, so here I have created a particular task, and this task is pretty simple. But just to give you the context, so first of all, I'm just gonna access the fruit basket. So that is this fruit basket. And if you go up over here, so this is the fruit basket, and here I'm just trying to access the 0th element, that is John's basket. So I'm just gonna put 0, and after that I'm just gonna put one more 0 into the fruits. So let's go here, and here you can see the fruit basket. I just wanted to access the John's fruit basket, and after that in the fruits basket I'm just gonna access the 0th element, that is apple. So this particular expression is gonna return me apple, and once I get that particular value, that is apple, then I'm just gonna apply it to the fruit prices. So that is our, again, if you go up over here, that fruit prices is again another dictionary, and inside that dictionary I'm just going to mention that I just wanted to fetch the apple. So this particular whole expression is going to return me apple, and once that has been returned, and then this expression is going to return me 0.5, which is the value of that particular apple. All right, so now we have seen like how to use that particular expression and access the nested element inside the dictionary. So let's run, I'll just undo the task and let's go to terminal and run this thing. I'll just clear it and run it. And here you can see where it is. Yeah, get the value of an apple from a nested variable. So that was the task, and which you can see over here, get the value from a nested variable. And if I go back to terminal once again, so here you can see the value of that particular fruit, which is apple. So this is how we are just going to access the nested elements inside the dictionary. All right, so now we are a bit familiar with the our dictionary variable and the nested dictionary variable and how to access them. The next thing which I'm just going to show you is the Jinja2 filters. So here, this is the task which I have created for Jinja2 filters, and these Jinja2 filters are really helpful when you want to do some kind of a string manipulation, like converting lowercase to uppercase. So these Jinja2 filters are really handy. But that's converting to lowercase and uppercase is just one example or one use case, but there are n number of applications of Jinja2 filters. So the idea is just to learn the concept of a Jinja2 filters over here. So here what I'm going to do, I'm just going to access the keys of my fruit prices. So if you go over here, so this is our fruit prices dictionary, and the keys are apple, banana, and orange. So I'm just going to access only the keys. After that, I'm just going to convert that particular keys to the list. So here, if you see the pipe, then this pipe is a Jinja2 filter, which is converting this particular keys to list. After that, I'm just going to use again the same Jinja2 filter and convert it into uppercase. So this is how I'm just going to do the uppercase conversion of my keys. And finally, I'm just going to print it in, I'm just going to convert it into again a list. And this particular task is going to print the value of that particular list. Let's run this particular playbook once again. And I'm just going to, oh, the screen is already clear. So I'm just going to run the playbook command. And here you can see using the Jinja2 filters on variables. So this is the name of the keys like apple, banana, orange, and which got converted into the uppercase. And these are now lists. These are not dictionaries anymore. So this is how you're just going to use the Jinja2 filters inside your Ansible playbook. Moving further, so till now you have seen like how to create the variables inside your Ansible playbook and how to access those particular variables. Now, if I talk about the scenario, if you want to create a variable inside a different wars file and you don't want to create the variable inside the same playbook, so then how you're going to do that? So if you take the next example, which I'm just going to show you over here. So this is the 6th example, which I'm just taking, where I'm just going to declare the variable, or I'm just going to create the variable in a different wars file. So the name of the file is my wars.yml. And if I open that file, so inside this Ansible variable project, there is a file which exists like my wars.yml. And here I have created that particular variable. So this is the name of my variable, that is wars from my wars.yml. So this is just a dummy name I have taken, and this is the value which I have assigned to that particular variable. So this particular variable doesn't exist into my main playbook, but it exists into a separate wars or variables file. So How to access those particular variables? So first of all, you need to specify the reference or the location of that particular variable or the vars file. So here you need to first use the attribute that is vars file, and here you can specify the variable file name, that is my vars.yml. And here you can reference or you can include multiple vars files. So if you have more than one file, then you can just keep on adding the vars file name over here, and Ansible will be able to include those variables file inside your playbook. So here I have just taken a one example. So here there is a one file, and inside that I have created a one variable. And how to access that particular variable? So accessing part is still the same. Your task is gonna be look like still the same. So here I have just created a one more task, and here I have used the variable that is vars from my vars file. So if you copy this and if you go over here, then you should be able to find it. So this is the variable which I'm trying to access it. All right, so now you have seen this particular example. Let's go to terminal and execute it. So I'll clear it. And here you can see this is the name of the variable and this is the value of that particular variable. So idea was over here is like how to include or how to use the variable file which is external, not external, but at least present into the different directory of that particular project and reference it into your Ansible playbook. So this is how you're just gonna do the inclusion of that particular variable file. All right, so now we have seen like how to create a variable inside the playbook, how to create a variable inside a variable file. But next thing which I'm just going to show you, like how to pass the variable at runtime. So here I have just created a one task. The task is pretty simple again. So this is the name of the task and this is the value of that variable version. But the key thing over here is that I have not declared this version variable inside this playbook. So if you will not just find any reference over here, if you go to the top over. So here you can see there is no reference to that version variable. And if you go to the my vars files over here, then also there is no reference to the version variable. So this particular version variable which you see over here at line number 96. So this version variable I have not declared anywhere, but I'm just going to pass that particular value of that variable at runtime. And how to do that? So if you open this particular readme file, so till now we were just simply executing this Ansible playbook, but here at the line number 10, this is the playbook command which I'm just going to use to pass the variable at runtime. And to do that, what you need to do, you just need to add extra flags, that is extra vars for extra variable. And here you need to specify the name of the variable, that is version, and its value. And similarly, you can pass one more variable, other variable, and the value that is foo. So here you can pass the runtime variable to your Ansible playbook. And you cannot just only pass one variable, but you can pass multiple variables. Let's copy this command from this particular readme and go to your terminal over here and clear the screen and paste the command. And here you can see get the value from a runtime. And if you go back over here, so get the value from the runtime and the variable is version, and you can see the value that is 1.0. And if I show you again the readme file, then you can see 1.0. So this is how you're just going to pass the variable at a runtime using your Ansible playbook command, and you can access the same variable inside your playbook. All right, so now we have seen like how to pass the variable at a runtime from the command line. The next concept I'm talking about is, can you pass the variable file from the command line? So yes, you can do that in your Ansible playbook. So here I have already created a my vars file that is present inside my project. And inside that vars file, I have created a variable that is other variable and the value is foo. So here what I'm going to do, I'm just going to print the value of other variable. But I'm just going to run my Ansible playbook command a little bit different. So here in the readme, you will find a one more command, and here I have used the extra vars, and here I have passed the YAML file. So instead of passing an runtime variable individually, I'm just going to pass the complete YAML file name at runtime. So this is the way you should do it. And you can even pass the JSON file also. So what you need to do, you just need to put @ and after that the name of that particular file. But always remember, try to put the correct path. So if this file is present inside some of the directory, then just use that particular path relative to that your Ansible playbook. But anyway, this playbook is available over here, and this YAML is also available onto the same level. So I'm just gonna go to terminal, I'm just gonna clear the screen, and I'm just gonna run the command. And here you can see the value has been printed, the other variable foo, and the print the value of a variable when var file is passed at the runtime. So that's the name of that particular task. So this is how you're just gonna you're just gonna pass the variable from the command line. So this is what I just wanted to show you. This is one more example where you can use the runtime variables. Now the last thing which I just wanted to cover into this variable session is the variable precedence. So how the variable precedence happen when you have multiple variables with the same name. So let's take an example to understand this. So in the my vars files, I have created a variable that is other variable with the value foo. But in the readme file at a runtime, I'm just passing the same variable with the value foo world. So again, I'm using the same variable, but I'm trying to pass the two values. One is present from the vars file and one is I'm passing it from the runtime from my command line. So which precedence or which value will be getting printed once I run and execute this particular task? So the answer is, if you pass anything from the command line or from the runtime, which is present over here, will get the precedence. So that's the priority of the variable. If you pass anything from the command line, then that variable value will always be used inside your Ansible playbook. So let's run this and see this in action. So I'll just head over to terminal and let me first copy this particular command. Go to terminal. I'll create the screen and paste it over here. And here you can see this is the value which got printed, that is foo world. But here in the vars file, the value was foo. So it will always override. If you pass anything at a runtime, then it will always override the values which is present inside your Ansible playbook, or if you have created a variable inside your vars file. So runtime is always get the precedence over any other variable. So that's the precedence order I just wanted to show you inside this Ansible playbook. Alright, so that's what I just wanted to show you into the today's session on Ansible variable. But in the next session, which is going to be a little bit short session because you are already familiar with the variables, but in the next session, we are going to talk about the environment variables and how to use those environment variables inside your Ansible playbook. So that's going to be the next session. And after that, we are just going to talk more about the if then else statement and how to use those if then else statement inside your Ansible playbook. So stay tuned and see you into the next session of Ansible. And if you are interested in any other DevOps topic like Terraform, Kubernetes, then please go out and check my channel where I have uploaded those sessions. So till then, take care and bye-bye. Hello and welcome back. Like in the previous session, we have talked about the Ansible variables, but in this lab session, we are going to talk about the environment variables. Now, when we are talking about the environment variables, then I'm talking about the path, home and user. So this is just an example of environment variables which are generally available onto the environment. So Ansible playbook allows you to update and use those environment variables when you are writing your own playbook. So with the help of Ansible, you can set the custom environment variable which is needed for your Ansible playbook. And those environment variables can be set at a task level, or you can set it on that particular global or the playbook level. Alright, so now I switch to my desktop. Let me zoom in over here. And here, this is the playbook which I have created to explain the environment variable. So first of all, what we are going to do, we are just going to create this environment variable at a very top level or Ansible playbook level, so that this environment variable which I have declared over here will be accessible for all the tasks which is mentioned inside my playbook. Second, we are just going to create one more environment variable which is present inside the task, and the visibility and the scope of that environment variable is only within this particular task, and this cannot be accessed outside of that particular task. So these are the two use cases which we are going to see in this demo. Okay, let me break this Ansible playbook, and first of all we'll start with how to create an environment variable. So at line number 9 you will see a keyword or attribute that is named environment, and below that you will find the line where I have written a variable name that is example, and the value I have assigned over here is foo bar. So this example name is user defined name. You can keep environment variable name of your choice. So here you can keep one more variable name like my var1, and you can assign the value to it also. So that will also work. So I can put variable value 1. So that also works. So here you can create a multiple number of environment variable. But what's the key thing over here is this environment variable like example and my_var1. These two environment variables are available for all the tasks which I'm going to create or which I have already defined inside my playbook. So these variables can be accessed throughout all these tasks. So that's the key benefit which you will get if you define the environment variable in this fashion. Now, second thing, like if you want to define an environment variable which is not global but which is very specific to a particular task. So over here in this section, so here I have created a variable or a task. Sorry, it's not variable, it's a task. So environment variable for only task level. So here I have created again the same, like I have used the keyword attribute that is environment and the variable name that is my task level variable. And I have assigned the value that is hello world. So now we have two environment variable, maybe we can say three environment variable, example, my_var1. And then this is the third one, which is very specific to that particular task. And here what we are doing, for each task we are printing the value. So here you can see I'm just printing the value of example, which is like a global environment variable. And here I'm just trying to print the value which is like a task level environment variable, which is this one. And the third thing I just wanted to demonstrate, like I just wanted to access the both variable, that is example, which is this, as well as this like a task level environment variable, which is this one. So ideally this particular task we should only get the value of this variable but not this one, because this my task level variable is a task level environment variable and I cannot access it because it is outside of this outside of the scope of that particular task. So these are the three tasks which I have created. Let's switch over to terminal and run this playbook. Alright, so this is my terminal and this is the command which I'm just going to run. But in case if you are wondering like where to find this command, then I have created this readme file over here inside this particular project. So from here you can just copy this particular command. And this whole repository I'll post it onto my description section so you can clone this particular repository. Okay, so coming back to my terminal, which is over here. So I'm just going to add one more flag for verbose, that is V, so that we can see the output of our tasks. I mean to say, if I open this one, so we can see this output like a built-in command where I'm doing the echo. So that's why I have added a verbose parameter over there. You just simply need to execute it. Okay, so let's analyze this output task level. So first we will start from this particular task. The name of the task is environment var at playbook level, and here we are doing the echo of example. So if you go to terminal once again, so yeah, this is the task which we have executed and this is the output which we are getting, that is foo bar. And if you check, so yeah, this is the foo bar and we are able to access that environment variable inside that particular task. And because this is a global or Ansible level, playbook level variable. All right. Now coming to the next task, which is environment for only task level. So here at the task level, what we have done, we have created this variable and the value is hello world. And if you go back to terminal, then you will see the output that is hello world. So that's also correct. That's also valid. But this third task is a bit interesting because here we are accessing the example as well as the previous this attribute or this environment variable. So ideally we should only get the value of example but not this one. So let's open the terminal once again, and here you can see the output. So here you can see the output foo bar, and that is this one. This is the foo bar, and which is right actually. But on the other hand, if you take a look, then the value of this variable is not getting printed because that particular environment variable is outside the scope of that particular task. So that's why I have created this third task just to show you the difference between the task level environment variable and the playbook level environment variables. Alright, so this is how you're just going to create an environment variable inside your playbook, and you can access those environment variable either at a task level or playbook level. Well, this was a very small demo, but this concept was really important because when you are going to write your Ansible playbook for your production application, that you will need to use this environment variables quite a lot, and you should be really careful like where you are defining your environment variable, whether it's a task level or whether it's like a playbook level. So keep in mind those concepts and try to use this environment variable in those fashion. Alright, so that was all about the environment variable, but in the next session of our Ansible series, we are going to talk about the if, then and else statement. So stay tuned for the next episode, and in the upcoming weeks, I'm going to upload more similar session onto the Ansible playbook and Ansible series. So stay tuned for that. And if you are new to this channel, then you can just subscribe to this channel where you will find the content on Terraform, Docker, Kubernetes, Ansible, and there are many sessions which I have uploaded for a Helm chart also. So just go and check those lab sessions if you are new to the DevOps. So stay tuned for that, and see you into the next session. Till then, take care and bye bye. Hello there, this is Rahul and welcome to the Ansible series. In the 9th part of this series, we will be talking about Ansible conditionals. Now the question comes like, what is conditional in Ansible? So if you are familiar with any programming languages, then you might have used the if statement for evaluating any conditions. Similarly, in Ansible, we have a conditional which will help us to evaluate any condition. And based on that condition, we will be taking the next step, or we will be executing the next Ansible instructions. Here onto the screen, you can see on the left hand side, it's a traditional if condition with any other programming languages. So where you specify if, and inside that you specify a condition, and after that you write a code which you want to execute based on that particular condition. But in Ansible, we actually don't have a if condition. Instead, we have a when condition. So whenever we need to put any condition, then we are just going to use the when conditional inside your Ansible playbook. In the beginning, it might sound complicated, but in actual, it is really simple to implement a conditional using the when condition. So here onto the screen, if I scroll it down, I have taken a very basic example to understand this when conditional. So here, this is my playbook where I'm just trying to install an Apache server onto my remote server. But I want to install this Apache server based on one condition. So here you can see this is the condition which I have specified using the when. So here inside that condition, you will see a flag that is install Apache flag. So that's a Boolean flag which I have kept. And if you see below over here, so this is the value of that particular variable. And here this value is Boolean. So based on true and false, I'll be able to install that particular Apache. So in variable file, if you have kept the value true, which you can see over here, the value is true. So in that case, if whenever I'm just going to execute this particular playbook, I'm talking about this playbook, then it is going to install the Apache server. But in case if this particular value, this particular variable value is false, then in that case, our Apache server will not be installed using our Ansible playbook. So that's the simplest implementation which you can see over here using the when condition. And don't worry, we are just going to perform a demo after this where we are going to implement this when condition inside our Ansible playbook. Alright, so now you're a bit familiar with the when condition, and in the previous example, we have just seen one condition inside the when conditional block. But now, what if we can specify multiple conditions inside our when conditional block? So here in this example and onto this screen, you can see the example where I have taken the when block, and inside that when block, I have specified multiple conditions. So this is going to be my first condition, and this is going to be my second condition. And if both conditions are true, then after that, this whole Ansible playbook is going to execute, and it is going to install anything or any task which you want to perform. Alright, so that's one way of specifying multiple conditions inside your when block. Now I'm taking one more example over here. I will increase the font size over here. So here you can use our traditional AND operator. So here again you can specify multiple conditions, but instead of putting the condition into the next line, you can use the AND operator and specify the condition in a single line. So here you can see this is the first condition which I have specified over here, and if I scroll it horizontally, then this is the AND condition which you can see. So this is the AND condition which is sitting in between, and this is the second condition which I have specified. So this is a more traditional way of specifying multiple conditions inside our when conditional. So it's up to you which one you want to prefer and which one you want to use. I personally like to prefer this previous one where we have like define each condition into the next line so that it's more readable and more concise. Now moving to the next topic inside our conditional. So here I'm just talking about the putting a condition on a particular value, and that value can be stored inside a variable. So we can specify conditions based on the value of a particular variable. So here onto the screen you can see this is the Ansible playbook where we are registering a variable. So this is a register keyword which is provided by Ansible, and here we are just specifying a variable name, that is test file content. That's the variable name which I have created. And inside that particular variable, we are just going to store the value of this particular text file. I'm just going to show everything into the demo, but this is the text file which is present onto my remote server, and whatever content present inside that text file, I'm just going to store inside this particular variable. So that's the first part of Ansible playbook. And what I'm just going to do, I'm just going to put the condition on that particular variable. So here in the next Ansible playbook task, you will see I'm putting a when block over here. So if you can see over here, this is the when. And here I'm just specifying the condition on that particular variable. So here you can see test file content std out. You need to fetch that particular value from inside the variable. So that's why I'm just using std out. That's a standard output. And after that, I'm just putting a find condition because I'm expecting a high content. I have just it is just a manual text which I have put inside the text file. So I'm expecting it will return high. So I'm just trying to find that particular content. And if this particular condition satisfied, then I'll say, yeah, just execute this particular task. So this is the condition which I have put over here. So when this particular condition is satisfied, then I'm just gonna print out the output of that particular variable. So that's how you're just gonna register a variable, assign some value to it, and later on you're just gonna evaluate that particular value based on the when conditional. So this is how you can play around with the variables also. All right, moving to the next topic in conditional. So now I'm going to talk about the loops, and you might be familiar with the for loop or for each loop in any of the programming languages. For example, Python, Java, Go, or any programming languages, they must have some kind of a looping logic implemented inside those programming languages. But here in Ansible, we can also use the looping. And here I have just taken a very simple example where I have created like a condition based on the value of that particular list actually. So here I'm just first of all going to define the loop. That's the keyword from Ansible. And here I'm just going to specify the array of numbers. And based on certain condition, I'm just going to print the value of those variables which is present inside my array. But the condition is I'm just going to print the value which are only greater than 5. So here I have specified that condition over here. So when this loop is getting executed, then this when condition will be evaluated. I'm talking about this when condition. And when this condition is evaluated, then we are just going to evaluate whether that value is lesser than 5 or greater than 5. If it's greater than 5, then we are just going to do the print of that particular value. So this is how you also can use the when conditional inside your loops. And the last topic before the demo is Ansible facts. So we can use the condition, the when condition on Ansible facts also. So Ansible facts are something which is like inbuilt. So if you're trying to run an Ansible playbook on a remote machine, then Ansible facts will always hold the value of that particular remote machine. And what does it mean by value? I'm not referring to a single value, but I'm referring here to the multiple values. So it might contain what's the remote IP, what's the operating system, whether it's a CentOS, whether it's a Debian, and what's the version it is running, what's the CPU type, what's the chip type. So all these information, which is like a metadata about that particular machine, will be stored automatically inside the Ansible facts. And using those Ansible facts, which you can see, I have just taken one example of this Ansible facts from the Ansible documentation. So these are the facts you can capture for that particular remote machine. And these particular variables like all IP addresses, and also there are like Ansible app armor. So these are the facts which is readily available to you. So you can put the condition on these particular Ansible facts also. So here I have taken one example, which you can see over here. So here I have just specified the when condition, but this when condition is running on the Ansible facts. This is the keyword. And what Ansible facts I just wanted to evaluate. So I just want to evaluate the OS family. So what's the OS family of the remote machine? So that's the when condition I'm just gonna evaluate, since I'm running the Ubuntu and which is a Debian base. So I'm expecting the value is to be Debian. So these conditionals you can put onto the Ansible facts also. So this is just one more concept which is left inside the conditional, which is I just wanted to show you before the demo. Alright, so moving to my IntelliJ, where I have written my Ansible playbook, and on the left hand side you will see this is the project which I have created onto my GitHub repository. I'll put the link of this particular GitHub repository into the description section, so feel free to clone that particular repository. So here this is the project structure, and here I have created part 9, and inside that you will find a task and variables file and also the main playbook. And after that, you will find a README file. So you can just simply copy this Ansible playbook command from here to run this particular Ansible playbook. But in the host file, you need to update the remote host IP. So here I'm just using my AWS EC2 instance, which is running onto the AWS cloud. So that's why I'm using it over here. But instead, you can use your own remote machine. All right, so that's all about the practicalities of this particular project, but let's go back to the actual code where I have specified these conditionals. So here, this is the first block where I have specified install Apache web server based on the condition that is install Apache flag, and that's a Boolean variable. So let's check the value of that particular Boolean variable, and that is true. So that means if I'm going to execute this particular Ansible playbook, then it is going to install the Apache server onto my remote machine. So that's the first use case. What I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna remove rest of the details so that we only run the required one. I'm just gonna save this thing. Go to the readme file over here, copy this Ansible playbook command, open the terminal, and here into the terminal, you can just simply paste that particular command for executing your Ansible playbook. Let me check the folder where I am in. So I need to switch to part 9. I'll clear the screen and just check. Yeah, I'm inside my directory, that is part 9. And after that, you can just simply run that command. This is the command which I'm just going to execute. Simply execute it. All right, so here you can see that it has successfully executed the install Apache web server. So that means based on that particular condition, which is true right now, it is able to install the Apache. But I'm just going to do one more thing. What I'm just going to do, I'm just going to update the value and set it to false. So once we set anything or this particular condition to false, then it is going to skip that particular installation step. So I'll just go back to terminal once again, and I'm just going to re-execute. Although we have installed Apache, but our main intention is not to install Apache, but instead we just wanted to check the condition. So here you can see it has skipped that particular step. So what does it mean? So that means that based on that particular condition, it is evaluating whether it has to execute that Ansible task or not. So in that case, when we have set the value to false, it has just skipped that particular task. Now in the next example, we are just gonna evaluate multiple conditions based on the Ansible facts. So here onto the screen, you can see this is the when condition which I have specified, but inside that when condition, I have specified a couple of more conditions. And these conditions are just simply checking the Ansible facts. So the facts where I'm talking about is the OS family. So what kind of a OS family the remote machine belongs to, and since it's Ubuntu based, so that's a Debian. So that's the first check. Secondly, what's the distribution major version? So what's the OS version of that Linux machine? So which is 20. So that I already know it. So that's why I have put this particular condition. So again, let's go back to terminal over here. I'm just going to clear the previous output, and I'm just going to simply run the Ansible playbook. And here you can see, since the previous value we have set for install Apache to false, that's why it has been skipped. But this task, combined condition using Ansible, has executed successfully. And if we check over here, then what we are doing over here, when this particular both the conditions are passed, then we are just printing the kernel version into the console. So here, just go back to terminal and check. So here you can see the Ansible kernel version, which is 40, Ubuntu, SMP, and the timestamp. So which has evaluated that particular conditional, has evaluated that condition properly. And our both the facts, Ansible facts, are true, and we have got the output over here. Okay, moving back to my Ansible playbook. So here I have specified the same condition using the AND condition over here. So you can see again the Ansible facts I'm checking over here are same. I'm just still checking the Debian, as well as I'm just checking the version, which is what is the major version, and that has to be greater than 20. So that's the only change which I have did from the previous condition where I was checking for exact 20 version, but here I'm just checking a version which is greater than or equal to 20. But rest of the conditions are same. So I just wanted to demonstrate you. That's why I have put this particular task over here. So onto the terminal, if you go back, I'll clear the screen once again, and you can just simply run the Ansible playbook. And here you can see the setting complex condition, that was my task name, and we can verify it over here. So setting complex condition, and here we are having two conditions. This is the first one and this is the second one. And onto the terminal, you will see the output, the Ansible kernel version, which is 40. So that's how you can put multiple conditions inside your Ansible task within your Ansible playbook. All right, now moving to the next example where I have shown, or where I have already explained, like how to register a variable and then assign a value to that particular variable and then evaluate that particular variable. So here I'm just first of all gonna register a variable with the name test file content, and after that I'm just gonna evaluate the value of that particular variable, and the value I'm expecting over here is just a 2 character, which is high. So I'm expecting a file to be present at that particular location. So I'm just going to go to my terminal, and this is my remote machine. I'll just clear the screen. Just check the path that I'm under home/Ubuntu. Just do the ls to verify the file. There is a file, testfile.txt, and you can just do the cat to verify the content. And here you can see the content of file is just a simple 2 character, which is hi. So I'm just gonna fetch this particular value of a file inside the variable, and then I'm just gonna evaluate the condition. So this is the command to do the cat, and it will register into this variable, and then we are just gonna do the standard out and then compare the value. All right, so let's go back, and here after the comparing the value, this will debug and print the value of that particular variable so that we know that condition has been evaluated. So let's go back to terminal, and I'll clear the screen over here and simply execute the playbook. And here you can see, first of all, it has registered the variable, so it has fetched the value of that particular file, and after that it has evaluated that condition and print the value of that particular variable, so which you can see, which is high. So here, this is the output which we have just verified. All right, now moving to the next example where I have shown the loop. So here I have specified the array. So where I'm just gonna loop. So that array contains the value 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. But the condition which I'm putting over here is item should be greater than 5. And once the value is greater than 5, then I'm just gonna print the value of that particular item. So that's the simplest like a for loop or the loop which I have implemented over here. So I'm just going to go head over to terminal. I'm just going to clear the screen and run the playbook. And here you can see the output onto the terminal. But if you take a look carefully, then you need to check which part has been skipped and which part has been changed. So this skipped part, which means we are not printing 0, 2, and 4. I mean, these values are skipped because those were lesser than 5. But the values which are greater than 5 has been printed over here with a changed like a highlighted. So these are the values which has been entertained and which has been printed using that for loop. So that's how you're just going to iterate over a loop using the conditional. And moving to the last part where I was talking about the Ansible facts, and you can put multiple Ansible facts inside your when conditional. So here I have just taken a fact. The Ansible fact is a keyword over here, and the fact I'm verifying is the operating system family. And I'm expecting value to be Debian. If it's Debian, then I'm just going to print the distribution name of that particular Ansible fact. So go to terminal, clear the screen. Screen is already cleared, so I'm just going to execute the playbook. And here you can see Ansible distribution, which is Ubuntu. So that's how I'm just gonna evaluate my Ansible facts. And after evaluating inside the when condition, I'm just gonna print the value. All right, so that concludes our 9th lab session on Ansible. And till now we have covered 4th chapter, which you can see over here from the content page. And in the next chapter, we'll be talking about the roles and the tasks associated with your Ansible playbook. And in that session, we'll be talking about how to import the roles, how to import the different tasks inside your Ansible playbook. So stay tuned for that. And if you are interested into the similar content on DevOps, where I talk about Terraform, Kubernetes, Docker, containers, and Helm chart, then please consider subscribing to this channel, because there are similar sessions I have planned in the future and upcoming months, which you will see onto this channel. So till then, take care and bye-bye. Hello there, this is Rahul and welcome to this Ansible series. And in this 10th part, we will be taking a look onto the task and the roles. The idea of this session is to understand what are roles and how to create multiple tasks inside your Ansible playbook. So in this session, we will first try to look and understand what is task and the roles. And after that, we are just going to perform a demo to understand both task and the roles. Alright, so to begin with, it's really important for us to understand the structure of our roles and the tasks. So here onto the screen, if you'll see, this is the screenshot which I have taken from my projects, and into this screenshot, you will see there is a roles. So this is the roles which I have created. This is the standard roles directory where we are going to define the roles. And here I have created a couple of roles. So this is the first one and this is the second one. So the name of the first role is custom role, because I just wanted to create my own custom role. But here in the second role, if you'll see, there is a unique name, that is install Apache. So that dictates like the second role is going to install the Apache. So whenever you're working with the Ansible playbook and you need to create a multiple task, then what you're going to do, first of all, you're just going to go inside your roles directory, and inside that, you're just going to create the roles directories inside those. Now, once you created those roles inside your roles directories, now it's time for you to include those roles inside your main Ansible playbook. So here, the main Ansible playbook is this one, which is Ansible import roles playbook.yml. So that is going to be my main playbook. So you need to include those roles inside that main playbook. So once you execute that particular main playbook, then it is going to execute those roles also. So if you scroll down further, then I have taken one more screenshot that is from my main Ansible playbook. So here you will see this is the first role which I have included, and here this is the second role which I have included. So once I'll execute this my main playbook, then it is going to execute first the custom role, and then it is going to execute my second role, which is install Apache. Alright, so now we have taken a look onto the project structure of our roles and how to include those roles inside your main Ansible playbook. Let's talk about the task and how to create those tasks within those roles. So if you take a look over here into the custom role and the install Apache role, we have created a task directory. So that's a standard practice which you need to follow while creating the task. So if you expand that particular directory, the task directory, then you will find a main.yml. So that's again, you need to follow this standard practice of creating a main.yml within that particular task, because in that main.yml, you're just going to define the task for that particular role. So here you will find the main.yml, and also for install Apache, you will also find a main.yml. So those are the standard practice which you need to keep in mind. Now let's open the main.yml of one of the role and see what's present inside those. So let's take a very simple one, that is install Apache role, and there is one main.yml present inside it. So if you are going to open that particular main.yml, then you will find that small task. That is, first task is to install the Apache, and the second task is to start the Apache server. So that's the task which you have defined into that particular role. And these particular tasks are associated with this particular install Apache role. So once you include that particular role over here, that is install Apache, then it is going to, what it's going to do, it is first going to install the Apache, and then it is going to start the Apache service. Let's take one more use case where we are going to create a subtask within the task. So here in the custom role, what I have done, I have created a main.yml, but that main.yml is still dependent on the subtasks. So here there are a couple of tasks which I have defined, that is messages.yml and that is packages.yml. So these are the further subtasks which I want to execute when I am executing this particular Ansible playbook. So inside the main.yml, first of all, you will see I have included, or I have imported the package.yml, that is package task. And after that, I have also imported the message.yml, that is my message task. And after that, I'm just writing one my task, which is to start the Nginx server. So let's take a look into the packages.yml first of all. So if you open this one, then what it's going to do, it is just going to install some packages. It is going to install Nginx, it is going to install Git, and it is going to install curl. So that's the package.yml, and it is a subtask present within the custom role. And after that, we need to include that into our main.yml. All right, so that's our packages.yml. The second thing is the message.yml, which I have already included or imported as a task. So here, what I'm doing simply, I'm just copying the content of our like a HTML file, which is present for Nginx server. And after that, I'm just including it over here into the message.yml. And finally, we are just restarting or starting our Nginx service onto my Ubuntu machine. So that's how you're just going to create a multiple subtask within that particular custom role, and it can depend, of course, the name can be different in your case. But once you create those role, then in that role, you can create a subtask also, and you can import those tasks within your main.yml. All right, let's run this playbook to verify the task and the roles which we have created. So what you need to do, you just need to go to the README file, and here you will find the run playbook instruction. So you simply need to copy this command. So it's basically doing, it's just running this Ansible import role playbook and from the host. And the host I have already defined over here in the Ansible import role and the host. So that's where you will find the host definition. Okay, so I'm just going to open the terminal over here, and I'm just going to paste the command and hit enter. So it should execute, and it should include all those roles which we have created, and it will execute all those tasks. So let's see over here. Okay, so here you can see, if you go one by one, so here we have first of all installed the package from the custom role. So that's the first thing which we have did. From the custom role, we have set the message file, which we have also seen. Then after that, we are just starting the Nginx server. So that's where the three tasks which has been performed within the custom role. Now coming to the second part, where we are just going to install the Apache, which is our second role. So here, first of all, we are just installing the Apache, then we are updating the configuration of Apache, and then finally we are starting the Apache. So that's how you're just gonna execute your Ansible playbook, which includes multiple roles, and in those roles we can have multiple tasks. So that was all about the roles and tasks in Ansible, and till now we have completed 5 chapters, and in the next chapter we'll be talking about the templating in Ansible, so where we will be covering the topics like Jinja templates. I'll be taking one example of a Jinja template, and how it will help you to understand like how you can create the Jinja template. So stay tuned for that, and if you're interested in similar content on a DevOps, then please consider subscribing to this channel. So see you into the next session of Ansible and DevOps. Till then, take care and bye bye. The objective of this session is to understand what is Jinja2 template in Ansible and how to use the Jinja2 template for your Ansible playbooks. Before we jump to the demo, let's try to understand like what is Jinja2 template. So as you can see onto the screen, I have listed 2 benefits of Jinja2 template. The first one is the dynamic configuration and the second one is the dynamic script. So whenever you want to use the dynamic configuration or dynamic script, then you should rely on the Jinja2 template. I know it sounds complicated, but the next example which I'm just going to take, it is going to explain the Jinja2 template in a very simple manner. Alright, so let's start with like how you can create a Jinja2 template. So onto the screen you can see I have created my Jinja2 template with the name like myconfig.j2. So any Jinja2 template which you are creating inside your Ansible project, that should end with the extension file name that is J2, that is Jinja2 template. And you can define any name for your Jinja2 template. So here I have kept the name as a myconfig, but in your case you can keep any name of your choice. Now, once you have defined your Jinja2 templates, then I'm assuming your Jinja2 templates is empty. But here I have just taken one screenshot, and don't worry, we are just going to take a demo and where I'm going to show you the complete configuration also. But here onto the screen, if you will see, this is the configuration of one of the HTTP server. And this server here, I'm just trying to put the dynamic value for server port, which you can see over here, which I have already highlighted. So whenever you're working with the Jinja2 template, then you need to provide a interpolation. So here the interpolation starts with the double curly braces on the left side and double curly braces on the right side. And between those, you need to put the variable, which is a dynamic value, which you will be providing from your Ansible playbook. So that's the first rule for using the Jinja2 template. Alright, so now you know like how to create your Jinja2 template with the J2 extension and how to create your interpolation and assign some variable inside those interpolation. The next thing which I'm just going to talk about is how to call your Jinja2 template inside your Ansible playbook and how to pass the variable value which you are using inside your interpolation. So the first thing which we are going to take a look is like how to call your Jinja2 template. So as you can see, this is the screenshot which I have taken. And here, first of all, you need to use the keyword which is template so that Ansible playbook know that you are just going to use the Jinja2 template. After that, you need to specify the file name along with the path. Since this Ansible playbook and Jinja2 template are present in the same directory, that's why I have just specified the name of that Jinja2 template because that's present into the same directory. Third thing which is really important is like you need to pass the value to that particular variable. And in our case, the variable is server port. So here you need to use the vars keyword inside your Ansible playbook so that it knows that you are just passing the variable. And after that, you need to assign the value, whatever you want to assign to it. So these are the key principles when you are using the Jinja2 template. So first of all, you need to use the template keyword. After that, you need to specify the Jinja2 template file name along with the correct path. And after that, you need to use the vars keyword. And then you can just specify the variable value which you are trying to use inside your interpolation. So in that case, this is our server underscore port, and that is the value which is 480. Let's start with the demo. And first of all, we are just going to take a look onto the project structure and where we have defined our Jinja2 template. So here onto the screen, you can see this is the part 11, Ansible Jinja2 template. That's the directory. And here I have created a roles directory, and don't worry, this whole project is available onto my GitHub repository. So you can find the link of my GitHub repository into the description section. And here into the roles directory, I have created one role that is install light HTTPD. That's the one more server. It's a simple HTTP server. And here inside the task, I have created a main.yml, but along with that, I have a myconfig.j2. That's my Jinja2 template. And remember, I'm just going to use this Jinja2 template inside the main.yml. That's why I have kept it over there. But in case if you have kept that particular Jinja2 template in some other directory, then you need to put the correct path when using your Jinja2 template. All right, that's something related to how to include your Jinja2 template. But if you take a look onto this Jinja2 template, then here at line number 14, this is the variable value which I'm passing dynamically. So here onto the screen, you can see this is the interpolation syntax which is available here on both left hand side and right hand side, and here is the value of that particular variable which we will be passing when we are running the Ansible playbook. Let's take a look onto the main.yml and how to include our Jinja2 template. So just double click onto this main.yml, and here you can see at line number 11, that's the source directory, and where I'm just gonna specify my Jinja2 template file name. So here I have specified that is myconfig.j2, and remember, always keep this source directory inside the template tag. So that's the key thing when you are using the Jinja2 template. All right, now the next thing which you need to do over here is to define the vars, and in the vars you need to specify what variable you are passing inside your Jinja2 template. So here I'm specifying server_port, and the value is 80, and which you can see over here into the Jinja2 template, which is server_port. So that's how I'm just gonna include my Jinja2 template, and I'm just gonna assign some value or passing some value to the server_port variable. Alright, so that's all about the Jinja2 template and how to include that Jinja2 template inside your Ansible playbook. I would like to explain my Ansible playbook and what we are going to achieve with that Ansible playbook. So here I'm just going to install light HTTPD web server onto my Linux machine. So that's the first task which I'm just going to do. Secondly, here in the second task, I'm just creating a configuration. This is an HTTPD conf, or like a server configuration, which I'm planning to replace with my custom configuration. And my custom configuration, I would like to start my server on a port 80. So that's why I'm just going to replace this particular file, this light HTTPD conf, which is present on etc and /light HTTPD directory. So I would like to replace this particular file which is present over there, and I would like to replace this file with myconfig.j2, which is my Jinja2 template. And here I'm just going to start finally my light HTTPD server. Let's run this playbook and verify our Jinja2 template whether it's working or not. So what you need to do, you just need to head over to readme file, and here I have written the command to execute this particular Ansible playbook. So I'm just going to copy this command, go to terminal and paste this command. So as you can see over here, our task has just finished. So here I have installed the light HTTP web server. After that, we have created our own custom configuration for that server. And then finally, we have started our server. So what I'm going to do next, I'm just going to SSH into my server, and I'm just going to verify my server configuration, whether we have properly replaced those server configuration with my Jinja2 template or not. So this is my terminal, and I'm just going to SSH into my server, which is my EC2 instance running on AWS. Simply hit enter. And here I can see that I have logged in into my Linux server. I'm just going to clear the screen, and I'm just going to run the cat command to go to the etc light HTTP, and then I'm just going to view the conf file. And if we scroll up, then you can see this is the server port, and the value which I have assigned over here is 80. So that's how we are just able to replace our custom configuration for our server. So that's one place I have modified, but you can use this Jinja2 template concept to replace or put your custom configuration on various places. So it is not limited that you can only replace one configuration, but you can replace more than one configuration, so that you get more dynamicity and more custom configuration which you can put onto the servers. So that's one use case, but you can use this concept to customize your configuration at a certain extent. So that will really help you to put your custom configuration and make your Ansible playbook more powerful. Alright, so now you have seen the Jinja2 template and how to use the Jinja2 template to put your custom server configuration. But I just want to take the same example, and I just want to take it to the next level, where I'm just going to change the port from 80 to 9090. So why I'm doing this? Because you can use the same Ansible playbook, and instead of running on a port 80, you can change the port to run it on a different port. But that's not an ideal scenario, but it can happen in future that you want to change some of your configuration, and instead of running a server on a particular port, you want to change to run that server onto different port. So that's a hypothetical scenario, but that's not in actual real use cases. But something similar can happen into your own configuration also. So what I'll do over here, so instead of running it on a 80, I'm just going to change it to run it on a 90. So with the help of this Ansible playbook and Jinja2 template, you can simply update your Ansible playbook and pass a new value to your server configuration. So here I'm just passing the value 90. I'll just save these changes and I'll head over to my terminal, go to my Ansible playbook. I'm just going to clear the screen and rerun the playbook. So this time what it is going to do, it is just going to update the server configuration and it is going to start my same server on a different port, which is 90. So here you can see it has changed the configuration and you can see the color has changed over here, which means our server configuration has been changed. And what we can do, we can again go back to another terminal over here where we have already logged in. I'm just going to clear the screen over here and we are just going to verify whether our changes has been reflected there or not. So I'm just going to rerun the cat command to view the changes. And if we scroll up, and here you can see. So we are able to update our server configuration just by running the playbook. So that's the power of your Jinja2 template, which you can extend and customize your Ansible playbook. So that was all about the Jinja2 template in Ansible playbook, and so far we have covered 6 chapters, and in the next chapter we will be talking more about the deployment strategy, and where we will be talk about like how you can use the Ansible playbook on a single server and when you can use the same Ansible playbook to run on a multiple server. So that's gonna be the next topic in this series, and if you are new to this channel, then please considering subscribing to this channel where you will see the similar content onto the DevOps, especially like a Terraform, Ansible, AWS, GCP, Kubernetes, and Docker. So please considering subscribing to this channel, and if you have any question related to the today's session, then please put down into the comment section and I'll try to get back to you. So see you into the next session of this Ansible series. Till then, take care and bye-bye. There are various deployment strategies when you are using Ansible to automate your deployment processes. But on a very high level, you can put the deployment strategies into 2 categories. One is the single server deployment and second is the multi-server deployment for Ansible. In this lab session, we are going to discuss about the deployment strategies, and specifically we will be talking about how to manage the deployment on all the servers when you are working with the Ansible. Second, we are just going to take a look on how to deploy or manage the deployment on a subset or a selected server out of all the servers. And finally, we are just going to take a look onto the blue and green strategy also. So how you can implement the blue and green deployment strategy for your Ansible automation. Before we start talking about the complex deployment strategy, let's take a very simple example and understand how you will manage the deployment on a single server. Let's take a look onto the project structure where I have created a sample project in which I'm targeting only single server deployment with my Ansible playbook. So this is the host file which is present inside my project, and this is the definition or the configuration which is present inside my host file. And you can see over here that's only one IP address which I have mentioned. So this is the remote server where I'll be doing the deployment. And just to keep the thing simple, what I'll be doing, I'll be installing the Python on my remote server using this Ansible playbook. And since our host file only contains single server, so this whole playbook will be responsible for managing the deployment on a single server. Okay, that's being said, let's take a look onto the Ansible playbook command. So here you can see this is the Ansible playbook command which I have written over here. So this is the Ansible playbook keyword which you need to mention. Then you need to specify the inventory and the host file, which you can see over here. So this is the host file path where I have defined my host IP. And after that, the actual playbook name. So the name of the playbook is Ansible deployment strategy.yml. So that's the command which you need to execute to run this particular playbook. One thing to keep in mind over here, since it's a single server deployment and I have not used any host or I have not limited this particular playbook to run on a single host. Since I have not specified any host inside my Ansible command, I'm talking about this particular Ansible command. So what it will do, it will just go and execute this Ansible playbook on this default host, which I have mentioned inside my host file. So you just simply need to run this playbook and it will execute the whole Ansible deployment for that particular host. And don't worry, we are just going to perform a demo in the second part of this lab session where I'm just going to show you like how to do the single server deployment and how to do the multi-server deployment using Ansible. Alright, so now we have seen the single server deployment and how to manage the single server host inside our host file. Let's discuss more onto the multi-server deployment using Ansible. So here onto the screen, I have taken one example, and this is my Ansible project, which you can see. And this is the host file where I have defined the multi-server host configuration. So this is the host file, which I have taken a screenshot over here, and I have categorized my host into two categories. One is the blue and second one is the green. So in the blue, like a category, I have two IP addresses. So these are the two remote machines which I am using. And here in the green also, I have specified two remote IPs. So here, this is the third and this is the fourth server. So here I'm managing the fourth server, and I'm trying to deploy or automate this deployment process using the Ansible for our 4 remote host machine. Now you might be wondering, like, what is this blue and green category? So whenever you're having more than one server, then it is always difficult to remember the IP addresses of each server. So what we do in Ansible is, like, we create a category, and here we have created two categories. One is the blue and second one is the green. Let's talk about the green category. So in the green category, in our example, we are having two servers, and those two servers are actively running in the production environment and actively serving the request from active customer. So our applications are live and those are accessible by our clients. But the blue category is also a production environment, but that is not actively serving the request from the clients. So just to ease out the thing, I will put active over here, and this one is passive over here. So what happens over here is, like, whenever you are doing the release, then what you're gonna do, you're just gonna perform the production release on a blue category of a server, because your blue category of a production server are not serving the actual client's request, but the green category of a servers are actually serving the client request. So you are not going to touch the green side of it. You're just stay away during the production release. You're just going to do the deployment and release on a blue category of servers. And once you're done with those deployment on your blue category of a servers, then what you're going to do, you're just going to decommission, or you're just going to put off the traffic onto the green side of the server. So you're just going to cut all the traffic which are coming towards the green, and then you're just going to redirect all this traffic towards the blue category. The benefit of this deployment strategy with Ansible is that you don't have to put the downtime on your production server. Your applications are always available, and you just need to switch the server from green to the blue server. That being said, then how you're going to implement this thing using the Ansible playbook command. So here there are a couple of flags which you need to use. So whenever you're just doing the production deployment on a blue side, then you just need to use this particular limit flag. So just type your Ansible playbook command onto your terminal and just supply this flag at the end of this, and at the end of your Ansible playbook command. And this whole deployment will run onto the blue category of servers. And here is an example command which I have mentioned over here. There is a screenshot. So here you can see this is the limit flag which I am using along with my Ansible playbook command. So this is the way you can just manage the deployment using this limit flag, and you can target the servers which are present under the blue category. Let's start with the demo, and here onto the screen you can see this is the part 12, and this is the project which I have created for this deployment strategy, and I'll put the link of this particular project into the GitHub section, so feel free to clone that particular project. Alright, so talking about this project, so first of all, let's take a look onto the host file, and first we will target onto the single server deployment. So this is the host file, and inside the host file I have created a default category, and inside the default category I have mentioned the IP address of my remote machine. So I'm just going to run this playbook, and this playbook is going to run on this default machine, this default remote server. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to open the readme file over here. I'm just going to copy this command, go to terminal. I'm just going to clear the screen. I'll just go to the directory where my project is, clear the screen. I'm just going to shorten this path so that it is visible to you also. Okay, I'm just going to clear it, and I'm just going to paste the command over here. And here you can see in this playbook command, I'm not specifying any limit. So I just want this playbook to run on all the hosts which are present inside my host file. Simply type enter, type yes. Now my Ansible playbook has just finished, and it has installed Python onto my remote server with this particular IP address. Alright, so now we have seen the single server deployment strategy using the Ansible. Let's update the host file and put the blue and green category along with the servers. So I'm just gonna go to my project. I'm just gonna open my host file and I'm just gonna erase everything from here, and I'm just gonna add the blue and green category along with the remote server IP address. Let's open the readme file over here once again, and here I have mentioned the Ansible playbook command with the limit flag. So what you need to do is you need to remove the line breaks over here, otherwise you might not be able to run this Ansible playbook. Okay, that's been done. So I'm just gonna copy this command from here. I'm just gonna head over to terminal. I'm just gonna clear the screen, and I'm just gonna paste the command over here. So here you can see I'm just running this Ansible playbook with the limit blue. So I'm just gonna update the blue category of servers. So simply hit enter, type yes. Alright, so now my Ansible playbook has just finished, and as you can see there are two IP addresses which has been updated. So one of them is like this one, 52, 59, 205 and 47. So this particular one which I have highlighted, which I have already where I have already installed the Python when I did the single server deployment. But this is the second IP which is from the blue category, and that has been updated, or where I have installed Python using the Ansible. And we can verify both the IP addresses. So let's open the host file once again, and I'm just going to open the terminal over here also so that you can see. So as you can see over here, so 52, 59, 205 and 47. So that's the IP address under blue category, and the second IP address was 18, 194, 203 and 12. So that's the second IP address. So these are the two category of those two servers under the blue category I have updated using the Ansible. So that's how you're just gonna limit the servers which you want to put under the deployment of Ansible. And using the same limit flag, you do the production deployment for the green category of a servers also. You just need to change the name of the limit flag. So this is how you're just going to manage the deployment strategy, or you're just going to manage the deployment on a multi-server environment like generally we have in our production. I hope this short session on this deployment strategies with Ansible will help you to manage and streamline your production strategies of deployment with Ansible. And if you're interested into the similar DevOps concept on Ansible, Terraform, AWS, Kubernetes, Helm chart, Docker, then please consider subscribing to this channel where I keep on sharing the similar content on a weekly basis. So see you into the next session of Ansible or DevOps. Till then, take care and bye-bye. Error handling is really a powerful feature which helps you to address the unexpected error which may occur when you are running your Ansible playbook. Let's talk about the couple of scenarios which might help you to understand why you should need error handling in your Ansible playbook. Let's assume that you have a two server and you need to copy a particular file onto both the server. But what happens is that when you're running an Ansible playbook, you notice that one of the server is offline and you cannot reach to that particular server. And once you cannot reach to that particular server, that means you cannot copy a file to that particular server. But although the second server is online, and you are still able to perform a copy onto that server. So if you don't use any kind of error handling over here, then your Ansible playbook will fail, and eventually you will not be able to copy the same file onto the another server which is up and running. So in such a scenario, what you can do, you can just use the ignore error flag inside your Ansible playbook. So what it will do, it will just ignore that particular error when you're trying to execute the Ansible playbook. So what will happen is that you will just skip that particular error, but you will move to the next server and you will just copy that file onto the second server. So with the help of this ignore error, you can just ignore such kind of errors happening into your Ansible playbook. Let's take another use case where you want to forcefully fail the execution of your Ansible playbook. And for this use case, let's assume that you are trying to copy a config file which is really necessary for your production deployment. But what you notice is that the destination path is incorrect and you are not able to copy that particular config file onto your destination server. And since this config file is really important for your production deployment, so you want to forcefully fail that Ansible playbook. So in such kind of a scenario, you need to use a flag, any error fatals. So this particular flag will help you to forcefully stop the Ansible playbook execution, and you need to fix that error before moving to the next deployment. Now I have explained to you the couple of flags which you can use for your Ansible playbook. Now I would like to switch over to my desktop and show you like how we can use those flags inside our Ansible playbook for error handling. Alright, so this is my Ansible playbook, and the first task where we are just gonna see is the ignore errors flag. So here, let me explain this particular task and how we are going to simulate this particular error, and then we are just going to ignore that particular error. So here at line number 4, if you pay attention, then I'm just trying to copy index.html to my remote server at this particular path, and the path is home Ubuntu. So I'm just going to first of all show you my remote server. So this is my remote server, and if I do the pwd, so this is the path where I would like to copy that index.html. But to simulate this ignore error, what I did is I just didn't provided the index.html. So this index.html is completely missing. So when this task runs, then it will not be able to find the index.html. And if it is not able to find the index.html, then it will result into error. And at line number 6, I have put the flag that ignore errors, that's true. So which means if there is any error involved in this particular task, then this particular flag is going to ignore that particular error. Let's run this playbook, and if you are looking for this particular project, then I'll provide the GitHub repository link of this particular project into the description section. So feel free to use that particular repo. So here I have created a README file, which you can copy the Ansible playbook command from here. And also I would like to show you that this index.html. So ideally I'm expecting this index.html to be present along with my main.yml, but this particular file I have not provided it over here. So that's just a small thing I would like to mention before running the Ansible playbook. So I'm just going to head over to my terminal. I'm just going to open another one. I'm just going to clear the screen, and I'm just going to paste the command over here and simply hit enter. And here you can see index HTML copy with ignore error. So that was our task name. So which you can see over here, that was our task name. And if you open the terminal, then here you can see could not find or access index.html. So which tells you that this index.html is completely missing, and Ansible playbook couldn't find that index.html. But since we have used that particular flag, so it is ignoring this particular error, which you can see over here. And at the same time, if you look at the final result of this Ansible playbook, then you will see that it has completed, but it has ignored that particular task. So this is how you are just going to use the ignore error flag inside your Ansible playbook, where you want to intentionally ignore any error which is happening inside your Ansible task. Moving to the next Ansible task, where I would like to forcefully fail my Ansible playbook. And for that, I'm just going to use the any errors fatals flag inside my Ansible task. So here I'm just going to take the same example. So here again, I'm just trying to copy the index.html, and this index.html is missing, and I'm just trying to copy it the same path. But here I just put some conditions over here. So the first condition which I have put over here is the any errors fatal, which is true. If this flag is true, and if there are any error associated with this particular task, then my whole Ansible playbook is gonna fail. But I need to provide the condition. When this condition is met, then make this particular task fail for this particular Ansible playbook. So we need to use, or we need to specify a condition. And that condition you can specify using the failed when. So you need to use two attributes over here. So first attribute we are just going to use is any errors fatal, so that your whole Ansible playbook will fail. But you need to specify the condition. When this particular condition is met, then make this whole Ansible playbook fail. And for that, we are just going to use the failed when flag inside your Ansible task. Let's take a closer look onto the failed when condition and how I specified it. So here at line number 17, you will see a message like could not find or access. So this is a particular error message I am looking into. But where I am looking this particular error message. So if you take a look onto the previous task, then here I am just trying to capture the result of this particular operation, which is a copy operation. So here it is trying to perform a copy operation, and whatever happens in that operation, I'm just trying to register that output into this particular variable, that is copy result. So what I'm expecting is that in that copy result variable, I'm expecting a message, and that message should contain could not find or access. Although that message is going to be a really long one, but I just want to find this particular words inside that message. So if you're trying to copy a particular file, and if that file doesn't exist, then it will result some error. And that result error message will contain could not find or access index.html. And I'm just trying to find that particular keywords inside that particular message. So once that condition, or once that keyword I'm able to find it, then I'm just going to evaluate that particular condition. So here I have specified this particular string, and it should be present into the copy result.message. And if it is present, then I'm just gonna make it failed, and this condition will get true. And similarly, there will be one more flag which will be coming along with this copy result, because this is like a registered variable, and it will have a lot of attribute, which I'm just gonna show you next. So inside that, I also like to check whether that particular task failed status is true. So when these both conditions are met, then I'm just gonna evaluate these conditions, and both the conditions are true, and then I'm just gonna make this particular any errors fatals flag true, and this whole Ansible playbook will fail. But before we run this Ansible playbook, I would like to enable one more task where I would like to show you that register variable and what it holds inside it. So here I have just put a debug on that particular register variable. So I'm just going to enable this particular task also, so that you can see what's happening inside, or what are the values present inside this particular copy result variable. So I have just enabled this particular debug. So when I'm just going to run this Ansible playbook, so it is going to spit out what are the content inside this particular message, and then we are just going to see like what are the condition which it is evaluating inside this third task. Okay, so I'm just going to open the terminal over here. I'm just going to clear the screen, and I'm just going to run the Ansible playbook. And here you can see, we'll just start from the first. So this is our first use case where we have ignored that particular error. Now second, string variable from main playbook. So this is where I'm just trying to print the values or whatever message which is present inside that copy underscore result variable which I have registered. So which you can see over here. I'm just trying to print the values onto the console so that I can see what are the values present inside this particular register variable. Okay, so the key thing which we need to look over here is we need to find this particular text inside that message, and also the flag which is like copy result dot failed should be true. So I'm just going to open the terminal, and first of all, this is the variable that is copy underscore result. That's okay. And then I'm just going to find the keyword. So here you can see could not find or access. So this particular keyword I'm just trying to find as a string inside that particular variable. So yeah, that is present. And also I'm just going to try to find this copy result, and here is the failed, and that is true. So these are the two conditions I was forcing in that particular task to be evaluated, and these both conditions are met. And once these two conditions are met, then I'm just making this whole Ansible playbook fail with the any errors fatals flag. So if you move down further, then here you can see here I'm just trying to copy using failed when and any errors fatals flag, and here you can see this whole playbook has just failed. And here you can see the final status of our Ansible playbook, that is failed is equals 1 and ignore equals 1. So ignore 1 was our first use case, and this is our second task where we have forcefully failed the whole Ansible playbook. Alright, so now we have seen the any errors fatals flag. So what I'm just going to do, I'm just going to set it to false before moving to the next Ansible task, where I'm just going to show you the another flag which is like a changed when. But to go to the next task, what I need to do is I need to first of all enable this one. And why I set it to false, because if I don't set it to false, then I will not be able to run this particular task in my Ansible playbook. So that's why I need to forcefully set it to false. Alright, now I have set it to false. The next thing which I'm just trying to do over here in this task is to use the changed when. So changed when is just another error handling kind of a things in Ansible playbook, which tells you like if something has changed onto the remote server. So that's where we are just going to use the changed when flag inside your Ansible playbook. So what I'm just going to do over here is that I'm just going to touch a file. So I'm just going to create a simple file with the name myfile.txt onto my remote server onto this particular location, that is home_ubuntu. And I'm just going to show you that whether that file is present or not. I'm just going to clear it. The path is home/ubuntu ls, and here you can see the that particular directory is empty and there is no file which is created over there. So this Ansible playbook, what it will do, it will just create a file that is myfile.txt, and it will register that output of this particular command into this particular variable. And once that output is registered into this variable, then I'm just gonna check that RC request for change is 0 or not. If it's 0, that means that particular file has been created, and if it's other than 0, then that means that file has not been created onto the remote server. I would like to correct one thing over here. I mentioned the name of this particular RC flag is request for change, but it's actually a result code. That's the actual full form of that particular RC. Having said that, let's switch over to terminal and run this Ansible playbook, and we'll see if we are able to create this particular file or not onto my remote server. So I'm just going to open the terminal and I'm just going to run the command or to execute my Ansible playbook. And we'll start from the first. So here, this was our first task for ignoring the error. Secondly, we were just trying to set the value of any error status flag to false. So now we are not forcefully failing our flag. So this task has also been passed. Now the third task is, which is this one, and which we are just going to evaluate. So here, this is the name of the task: create a file if it does not exist. So I'm just going to head over to terminal, and this is the task and the changed, which means something has changed onto this particular task. And here you can see the result, that is changed equals 1, which means that we are able to create a file onto our remote server, and the output is registered into this variable, and the value of that particular code is 0. So that means our file has been created onto the remote server. And we can go to the terminal, and this is my terminal, and I'm just going to run the ls command, and here you can see my file.txt. So this is how you are just going to use this particular changed when flag, and you can use this particular code associated with this RC, and you can specify it as a 0. So which means that something has changed onto the remote server, and that change is creating just a file. So this was just an example for using how you can use the changed when flag inside your Ansible task. So this was a small lab session on error handling in Ansible. In the next lab session, we are just going to talk about the Ansible Vault and how you can store the secure information inside your Ansible Vault. And that's going to be a little bit a longer session, because there we will be creating an Ansible Vault, and then we will be storing some secrets inside that Ansible Vault and using those secrets inside our Ansible playbook. So that is going to be the next session. And if you're interested into the similar content on DevOps, then please consider subscribing to this channel, where I keep on sharing the similar topics on a weekly basis. So see you into the next session of Ansible or DevOps. Till then, take care and bye-bye. Ansible Vault is a really important concept when you want to encrypt the data which you don't want to show in a plain text format while working with your Ansible playbook. Since we are talking about the Ansible Vault, then we should know the basic command on how to operate on Ansible Vault. So the first command which we will take a look is Ansible Vault create, which will help you to create an Ansible Vault from the scratch. Second, once you create an Ansible Vault, then how you're just going to edit the content present inside the Ansible Vault. So the second command which we are going to take a look is the Ansible Vault edit. And the third one is the Ansible Vault view, which can help you to view the content in a read-only mode present inside your Ansible Vault. Apart from Ansible Vault basic command, the second thing we are going to take a look like how to use your Ansible Vault when you're executing your Ansible playbook. And there are 3 ways you can use your Ansible Vault. The first way to use your Ansible Vault while executing or while running your Ansible playbook is to supply the parameter ask vault pass. So when you supply this parameter along with your Ansible playbook command, then you need to key in or you need to enter your vault password. And once you supply your vault password, then you will be able to fetch your secrets from your Ansible Vault, which are stored inside your encrypted YAML file. The second way of using the Ansible Vault is to store the password inside a vault password file, so that you don't need to key in or you don't need to enter the password from the command line. You can simply store your password for your vault inside a plain text file, and then you can supply that file while you're executing your Ansible playbook. And the third way of using the Ansible Vault is to export the path of your Ansible Vault password file into the environment variable. And the benefit you will get from that is you don't need to enter the password of your Ansible Vault, and also you don't need to supply the path of your Ansible Vault password file while you're executing the Ansible playbook. You can just simply run your Ansible playbook. Let's switch to my code editor, and the first thing we'll start is by creating our Ansible Vault. So this is my code editor, and this is the part 14. And this whole project is available onto my GitHub repository. So I'll post the link of my GitHub repository into the description section. So feel free to clone this particular code repository for your own use. Let's start with the walkthrough of my Ansible Vault project. So here this is the part 14 Ansible Vault, which I have already created. And inside that project, you will find a README file, which I have already opened over here. So here I have written down all the commands which I'm just going to use inside this particular demo. So the first thing which we are going to do is we are just going to create an Ansible Vault. And for that, the command is Ansible Vault create. And then after that, you need to supply the path. So here I will be creating my Ansible Vault YAML inside the groups var directory. And the name of my Vault YAML is my vault.yml. I'll copy the command from here to create my Ansible Vault. So I'll copy the command, I'll go to terminal and I'll just paste the command over here, just hit enter. And as soon as you hit the enter, then it will ask you to set a password for your Ansible Vault. So here I'm just going to set a password. And it is again going to confirm the same password which you have entered. So I'm just going to enter my password. And here you can see our Ansible Vault has been created. And now it has opened my Ansible Vault YAML, which is my vault.yml. So here this is open into the edit mode, and you can use the vi command to enter your like a secret inside your Ansible Vault. So here I'm just going to press I from the keyboard so that I can go into the insert mode. And the first thing which I'm just going to create is like my vault, or maybe I can type in like my secret, and then I can enter this is the first secret from Ansible Vault. So this is the secret text which I'm keying inside my Ansible Vault. And once you have entered your secret, then what you can do, you can press the escape from your keyboard and then save and quit, which is W and Q, and then hit enter. So by this way, you are just going to create your first Ansible Vault inside your Ansible project. And if you go back to your project structure over here, then in the group vars, you will find a file that is my_vault.yml, which has been created. And if you double click on it, then you can see this whole content inside that particular file is encrypted, and you cannot view the content which we have written a simple message inside my Ansible Vault. Since we have created our first Ansible Vault, then second command which I would like to run is to view the content of my Ansible Vault. So again, go to this README file, and here I have written the view command to view the content of your Ansible Vault. And remember, this is going to be a read-only mode. You cannot edit anything inside your Ansible Vault. And the command for that is Ansible Vault. After that, you need to supply the keyword view to view the content. And then after that, you need to supply the path of that particular file which you have just created. So I'm just going to copy this command from here. I'm just going to head over to terminal and I'm just going to paste the command and hit enter. And as soon as you hit the enter to view the content of your Ansible Vault, then it is going to ask for the password which you have set when you were creating that Ansible Vault. So I'm just going to supply the password and hit enter. And here you can see the message or the secret message which we have written inside our Ansible Vault. So the message which we have for that created is, first of all, we have created a variable that is my_secret, and this is the secret message which we have key inside my Ansible Vault. Well, this is just a demo, but this Ansible Vault can be used for securing your password, which can be your database passwords also. So here you can key in your strong password, which is really sensitive, and you can place those sensitive information inside your Ansible Vault. Alright, so now we have created an Ansible Vault and we have seen like how to view the content of my Ansible Vault. The next thing which I'm just going to do is I'm just going to use that Ansible Vault or the password which we have, or the secret text which we have created or inserted inside my Ansible Vault into my Ansible playbook. So here, if you take a look carefully, so this is the variable which is storing my sensitive information. So I'm just going to use this variable to print the value or to debug that particular value inside my Ansible playbook. Well, this is just a demo where that's why I'm just using the debug. But in case if you want to use this for particular, let's say for example, creating a database connection and you want to print or you want to use the database password, then you can use a similar approach and just supply your variable which is storing your database password. So this is just another example in the real-time scenario how you're just going to use these secret values. But for the time being, I'm just going to use this particular variable from here. I'm just going to copy it, and into my roles there is a task and there is a main.yml. So this is a very debug message which I just wanted to print. And here I have created a variable that is var, and here I'm just gonna paste the name of my variable, that is my secret. Now moving forward, what I'll do, I'll just run this Ansible playbook using my Ansible Vault. And for that, you just need to open the readme file over here. And in the second point, I have written the Ansible playbook command to execute my Ansible playbook, which will use your Ansible Vault. And the command is pretty simple over here, and I'm just going to explain that command also. So this is the Ansible playbook keyword. After that, you need to supply the Ansible where you will be storing the host. Second, you need to supply the name of your Ansible playbook. So that is Ansible Vault playbook.yml, which you can see over here. This is my Ansible playbook Vault YAML. After that, you need to supply the path of your Ansible Vault YAML using the E keyword. Okay, so this is the path where I'm storing my Ansible Vault YAML, which you can find over here also. So that's the important thing. And the third parameter which you need to supply over here is the ask vault password, so that you can key in or you can enter the password so that you can open that particular Ansible Vault and you can use the values or the secret value which you have stored. So this is the Ansible playbook command, which I'm just going to execute from my terminal. And then after that, we're just going to see the value which is printed onto the console. All right, so just copy this command from here, go to terminal. I'm just going to clear the screen over here and paste the command and hit enter. And this is the first way of running your Ansible playbook with your Ansible Vault using the ask vault parameter. So this is the parameter which I have just supplied with my Ansible playbook command. Okay, so I'm just going to key in my password and hit enter. And here you can see this is the message. This is the value which I have printed onto my console, and it is able to fetch the value. This is a first secret. Sorry, there is a typo. So this is the first secret message from my Ansible Vault. So this is the text I have stored inside my Ansible Vault YAML, and now I'm able to fetch that particular information onto my console using the debug provided by Ansible. So this is how I'm just going to use the secret value inside my Ansible playbook. Alright, so now you have seen the first demo where I have created an Ansible Vault, and then I am able to run my Ansible playbook using the ask vault pass parameter where I have keyed in and entered my Ansible Vault password. Okay, so before moving forward, let's take a few more examples of our Ansible Vault command. So I'm just gonna clear the screen over here. And the second command which I would like to tell you is to change the password of our Ansible Vault. So what you need to do over here is you need to key in, first of all, Ansible Vault. After that, you need to type in the keyword that is rekey. And after that, you need to supply the path of your Ansible Vault YAML, which is groups var and myvault.yml. And using this command, you can change the password of your Ansible Vault, and you just need to hit enter. So you need to key in your existing password, and you can set the new password over here. And you need to reconfirm the password. And once you use this command successfully, then you will be able to change the password of your Ansible Vault YAML. So this is a useful command when you want to change the password from the security reasons. Alright, so till now we have seen like how you can key in your Ansible Vault password to execute your Ansible playbook and to use your Ansible Vault. In the second example, what I'm just going to do, I'm just going to create an password file. And inside that password file, I'm just going to store my Ansible Vault password. And that password is not going to be a short password, but this is going to be my base 64 randomly generated password. And these passwords are really long and really secure because it is randomly generated, and those are base 64 password. So what I'm just going to do, I'm just going to first of all create a base 64 password file for my Ansible Vault. So here inside my project, there is a directory called pass_file where I'm just going to create a password file. Right now, this particular directory is empty. And if you take a look onto the README file, how to generate this particular password file, then this is the third point. And here I have written the command, which is openSSL rnd for random. And I just want a base 64 and 2048 bit. And I'm just going to create my password file with the name Ansible Vault. And I'm just going to end it with the extension .pass for password. and it is going to be created inside the directory pass_file. So I'm just going to copy this command from here. I'm just going to head over to my terminal, and I'm just going to paste the command and hit enter. And it will just complete very silently. But what you need to do, you just need to go over here, and here you can see this vault password file has been created. And if you double click on it, then you can see this is a base64 randomly generated password which we will be using to open or to edit our Ansible Vault. Okay, so now we have generated our password file. Now what I need to do is I need to create one more vault using that particular password file. So this is the command which I'm just going to use, and this command is again same, Ansible Vault create, and I'm just going to create a new YAML for my Ansible Vault using the name my vault with base64 pass YAML, and I'm just going to supply the password file over here because I'm not keying in the password manually or from my keyboard. I just want to use my existing password file which I have just generated. So here I will just supply the path of that particular password file to this Ansible Vault. And as you can see in the groups bar, there is only one my_vault.yml, and that vault.yml is I have entered the password manually from the keyboard. But here in the next YAML, I will be using my password file which I have just created. So I'm just going to copy this particular command. I'm just going to head over to terminal. I'm just going to clear it, and I'm just going to paste it and hit enter. And as you can see, now I'm into the edit mode, and here I can create my secret. So I'm just going to go press I from here, and I'm just going to type in my secret. So let's say my secret from base64 pass file. So this is the variable, and I'm just gonna key in my text message from base64. I'm just gonna type in base64 vault. This is just a randomly text message. I'm just gonna key in, and after that save and quit. So now what we have done, we have created a password file, and using that password file, we have created an Ansible Vault. So next thing what I'm just gonna do, I'm just gonna use that particular debug message inside my Ansible playbook to print the value of that particular variable which I have just created using the Ansible Vault. So here is a README file, and I'm just gonna run my Ansible playbook, but this time I'm just not gonna enter my password manually, but I'm just gonna use my password file to run my Ansible playbook. So this is the playbook command, which is Ansible playbook keyword. After that, you need to supply the flag inventory and supply the host file where you are storing the host information, the name of your playbook, which is Ansible Vault YAML. And after that, you need to supply the Vault file path, which is this one, which is a new one which I have just created. And after that, you need to supply the password file over here, and you should provide the correct path of your password file. Okay, so I'm just going to copy this command from here, go to my terminal, and I'm just going to paste it over here and hit enter. And here you can see this is the message which I printed onto my console using the debug, and this is the text message which we have just keying into our new Ansible Vault. And remember, I have not entered my Ansible Vault password manually, but instead I have just supplied my password file as a parameter. So this is the another way to store your password and into the password file, and that password file is pretty strong because that is a base64 randomly generated password string. The third one which we are going to take a look is to export the path of your password file. So you have already generated a password file, but what you're going to do, you're just going to export the path into the environment variable. And here into the README file, you will find the environment variable name, that is Ansible Vault password file. So that's the particular variable name you need to keep in and export into the environment variable. And once you export into the environment variable, then you don't need to even supply the path of your password file. You just simply run your Ansible playbook, and Ansible playbook will resolve that environment variable, which is this one, and it will find the path of the password file, and it will use that password file to supply that password to our Ansible playbook. So which is a more neater approach while handling your Ansible playbook and Ansible Vault. So in this readme file, you will find a command to export your Ansible password file path. And here, remember, this is the keyword which you need to keep the same name, which is Ansible Vault password file, because that is an environment variable. And after that, this is the particular path from here till your password file, which you can see over here. So this is the complete password file path. So this path will change based on your local workspace setup. So this is my current workspace, and this is the current path for my local development setup. But just change this path according to your password file path. So I'm just going to copy this command from here and head over to my terminal, and I'm just going to clear the screen, and I'm just going to paste the command over here. And we can also confirm by running the echo dollar and the variable name command, so that we have exported that particular variable successfully or not. So here you can see the environment variable has been exported successfully. The next thing which I'm just going to do, I'm just going to run my Ansible playbook, and this time I'm just not going to supply any manual password using the ask vault password parameter, or neither I'm just going to supply the password file path. I'm just going to simply run my Ansible playbook. So I'm just going to clear the screen, and I'm just going to paste the command over here. And if you take a look onto the command, so this is the command. Here I have supplied the inventory. After that, this is the Ansible playbook command. And after that, the vault file YAML, which I'm just going to use it. And after that, I have not specified the ask vault password parameter for manually entering the password. And neither I have specified my password file path. So I'm just going to simply supply my vault so that it can understand which vault I want to use. And after that, I'm just going to hit enter. And here you can see our Ansible playbook has started. And here you can see this is the message it has fetched from our Ansible vault. So this is another way to run your Ansible playbook and to export the path of your password file into the environment variable. So this was a very small demo session on how to use your Ansible Vault inside your Ansible playbook. And you can use either of the three ways which I have mentioned into this lab session. I'll put down the GitHub repository link into the description section along with the README file. And sometimes I also create a blog post on the similar lab session. So if you don't find these README file inside the GitHub repository, then I'll also put the blog post link of my blog where I will mention all the commands which I have used for creating the Ansible Vault. If you have any question or feedback, then please put down into the comment section. Those are really appreciated. And do follow this channel for the similar content on DevOps. And there are many sessions I have also planned in future. So see you into the next session of our DevOps. Till then, take care and bye-bye. Welcome to the last part, and in this chapter we are going to take a look like how I use Ansible playbook to deploy my own website, which is jhook.com. Here you can see this is the blog which I have been hosting for quite some time, and it is registered on a domain jhook.com. So this is the blog which I have been writing on a various DevOps topic, but this particular blog is using the service provided by a SiteGround hosting. So this is the hosting provider where I'm hosting my blog. So I have already purchased this domain, and then I have registered this domain with this SiteGround hosting provider. And here you can see this is the dashboard of my particular blog where I manage the deployment of my whole blog. Before I walk you through the various options available onto this SiteGround hosting and how I am hosting this blog and how I am uploading the files to update my blog post, it is really important for you to understand that how this blog works. So first of all, this blog is not a WordPress blog. It is a static blog. What does it mean by a static blog? So this blog is completely written in Markdown language, as well as the pages which you see are just the simple HTML pages. There is no database running in the behind the scene or in the background. So here onto the screen, you can see this is the GitHub repository where my whole blog is hosted. Not hosted, but I'm maintaining onto my GitHub repository. So here you will see this is the directory or the folder which I have created onto my GitHub repository. And there are various options over here. But I'll walk you through like how I write my blog, how I test my blog post, and how I run locally. So for that, what I use is I use Hugo static website generator. So if I go to the Google over here and if I search for Hugo static site generator, then this is the first option you will get. So this is the framework which I am using. This is an open source framework which you can install onto your local system, and you can also start building your own blogs. So this is the framework which I am using for my own blog development and writing the various blog posts. Okay, so first thing first, like how does it work? So if you go back to the IntelliJ, so this is the GitHub repository where all of my code resides for my blog. So what I do generally is I just start my Hugo server. So here, if I go to the terminal, I'll just open in a window mode. Let me view mode, change it to the window mode. Okay, so I'll just go back to the directory, and yeah, this is the correct directory where I'm in right now. So the command which I use it, remember, you need to install the Hugo onto your local system to make it work. Okay, so I'm assuming that you have already installed the Hugo, and after that I just simply run the command Hugo serve. And here you can see it is running on a localhost 1313 port. And if I go back to my browser, and here if I type localhost 1313, and here you can see this is the blog which is running onto my local system. So here I make the changes, I verify the changes, and once I'm satisfied with my blog post, then I run the Ansible playbook, which generally copies the HTML to my SiteGround hosting server. So that's basic thing which I do behind the scene when I'm writing the various blog posts. So let's start by making a small change first local onto our system, test that change, and then we will see how we can use the Ansible playbook to deploy this website or update this website onto my SiteGround hosting server. Okay, so here I'll go back to my IntelliJ. And here are some of the directories which I have created, and I'll just give you a little brief about like how I structured my various blog post topic. So here you will find a content directory, and in the content directory you will find a post directory, and inside the post I have created a various directory where I keep on writing the various blog posts. So for example, Ansible, AWS, DevOps, Docker, GitHub. So these are the various categorization which I have done. So let's take a look onto the Ansible, because the latest post which I see is this one, which I have written on September 19th last year. I have not been active on this blog, but let's take a look. So here, this is the markdown file which I generally create for my writing my blog. So this is a markdown structure which you need to follow for writing this blog post. I know it might look complicated for you, but if once you get familiar with using the markdown, then it's really easy to manage your blog post, and you can write it from anywhere, and you don't need any fancy tool to manage your blog. You just need an editor. I'm using IntelliJ. You can use Sublime, Notepad++, and you can manage your blog. Anyway, so what I'm just going to do over here is I'm just going to change a few things over here. So let's see Ansible Handler example, real world use case and example. So here I will remove the question mark. I'll save it. And last modify, so I'll change this date. I'll change it to something, let's say 24, and make it March, and make it, let's say, what's the date today? 6th of March. Okay. And I think that's the small change which I have done it. So let's save this file and go back to your browser, just refresh it, and here you can see this question mark is gone from here. If you click on this blog post, and here you can see the last modified date has been updated to 6th of March. Okay, so this is the modification we have done, and we are able to verify this change. Okay, now the next thing is I'll show you how I generate the HTML file, and here you can see this whole blog post is still into markdown file, which you can see it is ending with the file.md, which is a markdown extension. So using this markdown file, we are just going to generate an HTML page, and that HTML page we are just going to copy it to the SiteGround server. Now, how to generate the HTML page using the markdown which I have just updated. So for that, we are going to use the Hugo command utility, because I have already shown you like I have already installed the Hugo onto my local system. So here onto the terminal, what I'll do, I'll just go, I'll clear the screen over here. And first thing, whenever I generate the HTML file, then it will generate a public folder over here. So here you can see there is no public folder which you can see, and in that public folder it is going to generate all the HTML file after parsing the markdown file. Okay, so let's go back over here onto my terminal. I'll just open the terminal over here, and you just need to run the command Hugo. and it will automatically read all the directories where markdown file is present, and then it is going to process it and generate the static HTML file for me. So here you can see this is the output, and it has processed so many files, and these are the images because I have copy pasted some of the images into my blog post as well. So these are the stats which it has parsed, and here you can see there are 295 pages which has parsed. And if you go over here, then you will see a public file over here, a public folder over here, and inside this public folder you will find all the HTML for all the blog posts. So here you can see this is a really long list because I have posted quite a lot of posts onto my blog. So all the pages are all available over here, and if you open any of the page, let's say I open this one, then you will see a index.html page, and if you'll open this one, then you will find all the blog posts in the form of HTML. So this is how I write my markdown blog post, and then I generate the HTML page. So this is the basic setup for my blog, and this is how I write and generate the HTML. In the next step, we are going to take a look like how I have written my Ansible playbook to copy this HTML, this public folder, to my SiteGround hosting server. Okay, so let's recap. So here is my laptop. Here I have writing the markdown file, and which markdown file I'm parsing using the Hugo, and Hugo is generating me the HTML pages. So that's a very basic setup which I have onto my local laptop. Now the next thing is how to copy that particular file to my remote server, which is a static ground hosting server. So here you can see this is my laptop on the left hand side, which has a private key. So I need to generate a SSH key. One is the private key and one is the public key. So I'm just going to generate that key. I'm just going to keep the private key on my laptop, and the public key I'm just going to keep onto my SiteGround server. I'm just going to show you how to generate that key, but just understand this concept. So here I will keep the private key with me, that is only available for me, and the public key onto my SiteGround server. And after that, we are going to use this SSH key to communicate with my SiteGround server. And using this private key, I'm just going to copy the HTML file inside my SiteGround hosting server. And those files are going to be my HTML file, which I have just generated. Now let's take a look onto the SiteGround and how the files are visible over there. So if I go to my browser over here, go to the SiteGround. So this is my console of my website where I'm hosting my website. So here you just need to go to site over here, and here you will find a file manager. So here in the file manager, you will find the public HTML directory, which you can see. And here in the public.html, you will find all the HTML pages. So if I open this one, and here you can see the index.html page. So these are the files which I generally copy from my local machine to my SiteGround hosting server. Okay, but how do I do that? So what I do is, like, this is a flow which I have implemented using the Ansible. So I hope now the SSH key part is clear to you. I'm copying HTML file from my local laptop to my SiteGround hosting server. Okay, so this is the part. I hope you're clear with that. The next thing is how I'm copying this file. I'm not copying one file by one file. I'm just generating the file. Then I'm creating a zip file, then I'm uploading the zip file to the SiteGround server, which I'm just going to show to you. So this is my laptop. Here I'm generating the HTML file. After that, I'm creating a zip file, and that zip file I'm just putting it onto, or I'm uploading it onto my SiteGround hosting server. And once I upload that zip file, then I'm just going to extract again all the HTML files out of it. And this is how I do the deployment of my website onto the SiteGround using the Ansible. Okay, so that part is clear to you. Now coming back to the point, I need SSH keys. I need a private key and I need a public key so that our whole communication is secured between the SiteGround on my and also my laptop. Okay, so I'm just going to open the terminal over here. So let's open the terminal over here, and in the terminal you can just type the command SSH keygen and it will generate the public key and the private key for you. So here, as soon as you enter the SSH keys in onto your terminal, if you are using the Windows system, then I would highly recommend to use git bash because that's where you can run these commands, or you can use the WSL2, which is like a Linux subsystem which you can install onto your laptop if you are using the Windows. So I would highly recommend to use those so that you can generate the SSH keys. And I'm using the Mac, so here I have the terminal. So here I can run these kind of a command. So it will generate the key onto this particular directory. So keep in mind, just always remember this is the path where you will get the keys. Okay. So what I'm just gonna do, I'm just gonna copy this full path and I'm just gonna put some custom name to my key. So I'm just gonna paste it over here and I'm just gonna put site ground demo. Okay, and hit enter. Do you like to have a passphrase for your SSH key? Then I'm just gonna skip that one. No, I'm just gonna simply hit enter. Okay, and now my keys are generated. So if I go to this particular directory and if I run the ls command, so I'm just gonna copy this path, clear the path, and I'm just gonna run the command lart and I'm just gonna paste the path. So here you can see this is our private key and this is .pub is going to be our public key. So this is how you're just gonna generate the keys for you, and these keys we are gonna use to upload our HTML zip file. Okay, I just wanted to show you the key because the keys I have already generated and I have already set up for my SiteGround hosting. So I'm not going to change those things, but all the steps which I'm showing to you is exactly the same. This is how you're just going to generate the key, and then we are going to use those keys to enable the communication between the server and our lab. Okay, so now let's talk like where I have configured the public key onto my SiteGround server. So here you can see this is the public key, which is I have put it mentioned over here. So I need to set up that particular key. So if you go to my SiteGround hosting, go to dashboard, and here if you go to the tools, I'm saying it should be security, and here you can see this is a security. Go to SSL manager, and in the SSL manager, wait for a second, sorry, it's under devs, and here you will find the SSH Key Manager. So in this section you will find the keys. So here you can see here I have already uploaded this key. This is our SSH RSA key. So this key I have already uploaded over here. So this is my public key which I have just uploaded to the SiteGround. And there are a few more details which you need to keep in mind. So this is the username because you have the key, but you need a username to log in into your SiteGround server. So here this is the username for that Linux system, and this is the port where I will be doing the communication, or this port is open for performing this kind of activity. Since I'm using SiteGround, so it is very specific to SiteGround, but if you are using any other Linux server or Linux hosting, then you should get a username, something from that Linux hosting, and you should check the port number which they are allowing you to use. So these are the few details which you need to keep in mind. Okay, and this key SSH keys concept is pretty much common irrespective of any of the hosting services you are using. So just check with them, like do they support or do they have this feature enabled for you or not. If they have enabled it, then just simply upload the public key over here. Okay, and how to do that? Sometime you can even import the key. So you just need to paste the content over here. So if you see over here, so here if I clear this directory and if I go over here and I type SiteGround demo.pub, so not lslart, it should be cat actually. And here you can see you can just simply copy this content from here and go to your SiteGround hosting and paste it over here. It is that simple. So you have just uploaded the public key onto your whatever hosting you are using. So this is that simple. Okay, so now this is our SSH key manager. I'm not going to use this one, and here we already have those keys with us. Okay, now I have explained you the whole setup and how we are going to implement these things and what are the prerequisites which is needed to achieve this thing. So now I will explain to you like how I have written the Ansible playbook to implement the whole scenario. Okay, so in the same repository where I'm having my blog, I have created an Ansible playbook directory, and here in the Ansible playbook I have created a JHook playbook YML. Okay, so this is the task which I have created, and the task I have created a role which is JHook. So if you go over here, and one more thing, I mentioned the username, so I'm using this username. If you take a look, this is the username, and if you go back, then you will find the same username over here, which is this one. So that's why I said like you just need to check with them like what kind of a username they are allowing you to use. So this is the username which I'm using. So I'm running this whole playbook with this particular remote user, and this is the task which I have created. So let's take a look onto the task. So this is the JHook. Go to inventory, not inventory, go to roles, go to JHook, go to task, and there is a main.yml. Okay, so this is the main playbook which is responsible for copying the content. All right, so first thing, this is the simple task which is just outputting the path, which is pwd, the current path. Second, it is running the hugo command. It is just a simple hugo command to generate the HTML content. So if you remember, then I have shown you like this is the command which I have run previously. So this is the hugo command which I have run. So which has generated the basic HTML pages for us in the public directory, which is this one, where it is this one. Okay, so I'm just simply running the hugo command so that I can generate the HTML pages for my blog posts. After that, this is simple debug I have written just for debugging whether it is on a correct path or not. Second, here I am running the command to compress the directory. So I just wanted to compress the public directory, which is this directory. So here, this is the path of that. This is just a name, but here I'm just putting the path. So this is the path. So this is the project path. And if you can see this variable, so this variable I have defined into roles, and if you go to vars, and this is the main.var. So this is the project path. I'll just wrap it around. And here you can see this is the location where my current project is available onto my Mac laptop. So this is the exact path where my files are located. So this is using the project path, and there it is looking for a public directory, and then it is looking for all the content. And in the destination, it is again using the same project path, and here it is creating a zip file name. And what is the zip file name variable? It is jhook.zip. Okay, so here you can see we have the public directory, but I have not run the playbook, so there is no zip jhook.zip which has been created. I'll show you once I run this playbook. Okay, so here till this part we are just creating the zip file. So if you take a look onto our presentation once again, so here HTML has been generated, and now we have created a zip using the zip Ansible task. Okay, here, so we have completed this many tasks. Next, we are just doing the copy operation. So here it is using the path like project path and the zip file name, which is this one. Okay, so it is using this complete zip file, and it is uploading it to the jhook.com, which is our SiteGround hosting, and this is the destination directory. Okay, and here is the destination directory which I have defined. So if you go to over here, and this is the destination directory, so which you can see, which is home. This is the username of my SiteGround hosting, and this is the path, which is jhook.com public_html. And if I show you over here, then if I go to file manager, and if I go here, you can see this is the path. Actually, I'm inside. If you go here, then here you can see this is the path which is where I need to upload it, jhook.com public_html, and which is this one exactly. Okay, and let's go back to the task YML once again. And after that, I'm just after copying that particular file, if I take a look over here, so here I just copied it, the zip file over there. After that, I have written an extract task. So this is going to extract that particular zip file. So here it is just going to extract and generate extract the HTML file out of the zip file. And here this is the task which I have written for that one. And once it is extracted, then it is going to remove that particular zip file. Then this zip file from the remote server is going to remove. So this is the simple playbook which I have written to automate the deployment of my blog post onto my SiteGround hosting. And one key thing I forgot to tell you, like where is my private key? I have shown you like how to upload the public key to the SiteGround hosting, but where is my private key? So in the same Ansible playbook directory in the inventory, you will find I have used this private key, which is JHook. This is our private key, which is I'm only keeping it over here. Although I have copied this public key also, but I am not using this public key anywhere. I just copied it so that if I change my laptop, if I format my laptop, then I have a copy of that particular key and I don't need to regenerate that key. So that's the purpose I have kept it over there. And in the host file, if you take a look, if I go and show you once again, so this is the sorry, it should be JHook. I have just changed the host name. So here is the name of my host. This is the path of my private file, and this is the port where it will be communicating. Okay, so this is the host, which is SiteGround host. This is the path of my private file, a private SSH key, and this is the port where it will do the communication. So this is the definition, or this is the configuration for my host file for running this Ansible. Okay, now we have seen everything. Now we need to run this playbook. Okay, and if I go back to my website, refresh this page over here, and here you can see this question mark is still there. And if we check the last modified that, then it is 19 September 2023. Okay, but on local, if you check the same thing, then there is no question mark, and the modified date is 6th of March. Okay, so let's update the whole let's run the playbook and update the whole blog post. Okay, go back to your terminal over here in the IDE, and I'll clear this one. Then I'll go to the Ansible directory, and here what I do is I generally return the command into that YAML, so which is jhook. This is the playbook command which I generally run. So I'll just copy this command. I'm just gonna explain to you also that one, and I'm just gonna paste it. So this is the simple command, which is Ansible playbook. Then there is an inventory, and inventory I'm specifying the host file, the host location of the file, and the name of the playbook which I'm just running, which I have just explained to you. Okay, it is that simple. And after that, you just simply hit enter. And here you can see it started to create the public HTML. That it is going to, now it is compressing the file. Now it is copying the content to SiteGround, and this is the host, and now it is extracting the zip file onto the SiteGround at this particular location, and after that it is removing this particular zip file over here. So it has finished this task. Okay, and if you take a look over here, then here you can see now the jhook.zip file has been created over here. Okay, which was not present previously. So now my content is updated onto my website. So if you go back over here, and I'll close this localhost. If you see, take a look, this is localhost. I'm just gonna close this one. I'll just close this one also, and I'll just go to the dashboard and over here. So if I refresh this page right now, so it will not show the changes because there are some caching which is implemented from SiteGround. So I need to delete the whole caching for my website so that it can show the latest changes. Okay, so I'll go to the SiteGround, and I think it should be into the speed. Go to caching, go to dynamic caching, and then clean this, flush the cache. And now the cache has been flushed. So these are some custom settings which I learned eventually when I started working more with my blog post and hosting, SiteGround hosting. Now the caching has been cleaned, and I'll just refresh this page once again. And here you can see the question mark is gone, and the last modified date, it shows now the 6th of March. So this is how I maintain my blog post, and this is how I automated my whole deployment. Because what happens is, like, I generally write quite a lot of blog posts and I modify quite a lot of blog posts. So it's a quite a manual thing. If I write a 4 or 5 blog posts, then those blog post has certain images. So a single blog post update can contains 4 or 5 images, 4 or 5 files. So I just need to manually copy those files if I don't use Ansible. So instead of doing that task manually, I just written this Ansible playbook, which just generate everything, zip it everything, and upload it to the server. And that's how I just automated this task, and it just take a few clicks to run the playbook, and my blog is up to date. I hope this project will help you to understand the previous concept which you have learned throughout in this course, and you got a chance to see like how I'm using it in a real time. So if you like this kind of a content, then please considering subscribing to this channel, and also please check out the premium membership program also, which I have just created for you, where I keep on uploading these kind of projects over there as well. So keep following this channel for more DevOps related topics, and see you into the next session. Till then, take care and bye bye.